Vil activated his legendary crafting skill, calling upon the power of the divine hammer MJ Fainir to forge a sacred relic. The weapon formed in radiant light aim, no Mahatatsu's masterpiece, emerged as the holy light severance. With his new weapon complete, Vil settled into his new home, a place meant to be both workshop and a start of married life. Unexpectedly, Vil received troubling news from his fiancé Sirikal Hassan. Without hesitation, she asked to break off their engagement. Vil tried to reason with her, pointing out their responsibilities and the legacy they were meant to uphold. Instead of reconsidering, Sirikal confessed she had already given her heart to someone else. A man appeared by her side, wrapping his arms around her as she leaned into him without hesitation. Staring in disbelief, Vil recognized the man and struggled to process the betrayal. They claimed he had abandoned her emotionally, prioritizing his craft during her time of mourning. Vil defended his actions, explaining he was trying to save the company from collapse and had no choice. His words were dismissed, as Sirikal's partner claimed it was luck, not effort, that brought success. Standing firm, Sirikal insisted her determination was what earned her recognition after her father's death. Despite just completing their new home and store, Vil was told he had to move out. They justified it, saying living under the same roof as an ex was unacceptable. Sirikal revealed another truth: she was pregnant, and her partner had assumed the role of household head. Vil erupted in disbelief, unable to accept the growing list of betrayals. Boiling with frustration, he offered to leave everything behind, no longer wanting to argue. Despite everything, Sirikal pleaded with him to continue crafting weapons for the company. Without looking back, Vil walked away, declaring their world no longer included him. As the door shut behind him, silence filled the house, leaving two behind in stunned stillness. Elsewhere, someone described Vil as a rare genius, blessed with divine talent. Jealousy flared, resentment over lost praise, love, and recognition boiled over into confession. A sudden knock broke the tension. A mysterious, elegant woman appeared, asking for Master Hapusai. Everyone froze in shock upon recognizing her. Princess Anaros had arrived unannounced. Confused by her visit, they questioned why royalty would care about a humble smithy. Praise was offered to Sirikal for being engaged to someone so exceptional, though it struck her with discomfort. News of the broken engagement stunned Anaros, who had come specifically for Vil. A calm smile formed as she acknowledged the shift in ownership and accepted it without resistance. With confidence, she declared her full support, pledging responsibility for everything tied to Hapusai. Amazed by their boldness, Anaros mocked them briefly before making her exit without another word. Once outside, she commanded her knights to sever all ties with Hassan Trading Company at once. Urgency in her voice, she ordered a full search to locate Vil before he got too far. Doubt lingered. She questioned their knowledge of Hapusai's legacy, implying Vil's brother wasn't a worthy successor. Far away, Vil calmly drifted downriver, flipping a coin as he journeyed into the unknown. Resolute and unwavering, he vowed never to return, even if begged. Raising his arm, he summoned MJ Fainir while a curious voice questioned the name, Hapusai. An old man answered, explaining it referred to a blacksmith chosen by the gods. Ivory bearer of the Golden Hand inherited a unique crafting skill passed through generations. With a burst of energy, he activated Ultra Alchemy, channeling overwhelming power into his hammer. After forging a powerful item, he paused, aware that overproduction could destabilize the market. Beside his grandfather's bed, he listened as the elder explained the rarity of his blessing. Unlike others, he possessed 5 unique crafting skills, a miracle never seen before. With solemn pride, the sacred hammer was passed on, and he was named the next Hapusai. Fulfilling his new role, he forged relics, barriers, and sacred weapons under royal commission. Peace in the kingdom, Anaros claimed, existed only because Hapusai had stood at its core. Although the barrier remained intact for now, extended absence risked the capital's defenses. Thanks to Vil's recent efforts on the Holy Sword, the situation remained stable, unless disaster struck. With urgency in her voice, she ordered troops to locate Vil and protect the kingdom's safety. Concerned he'd be pursued by others, she noted, Caroline admired him deeply both as a craftsman and a man. With a commanding voice, he unlocked the box, ready to set his new path. He stored his money safely, reflecting that shop work was never Hapusai's true purpose. A confident smile followed the memory. Grandfather had always said their mission was something greater. Recalling the moment clearly, he was urged to forge relics, not just maintain old ones. Tears fell as he accepted the legacy to create sacred artifacts and offer them to the heavens. He gazed skyward, realizing his path had always been clearly shown to him. A powerful artifact surged to life, an SSS-ranked drifting teleportation crystal. With no hesitation, he activated it, ready to leap into an unknown future. Driven by purpose, he vowed to travel the world, improve his craft, and surpass his mentor's legacy. Someday, he would forge a sacred relic greater than MJ Fainir itself. A distant scream stopped him in his tracks nearby. A girl was under attack by a monstrous bear. Her desperate cry for help pushed him into action without hesitation. He leapt forward, intercepting the beast with explosive force, shielding the girl in the process. Amid the chaos, he realized he had landed in a forest far from anything familiar. Calmly, he approached the shaken girl, offering a reassuring voice to check if she was all right. Vil noticed the injured girl trembling on the ground, shocked to see she was beastfolk. Under the pale moon, Vil approached a small beastkin girl, her body trembling in silence. Noticing the collar around her neck, Vil understood immediately she had been treated as property by slave traders. Nearby, the mangled corpse of a beast told the tale. Tears exploded from her eyes as panic surged. Overwhelmed by trauma, she let out a sharp cry, unable to contain her fear. With calm resolve, Vil stepped forward and raised his hammer. Crouching low, Vil extended his hammer toward the frightened girl, careful not to startle her further. Tears welled in her eyes, but his gentle smile eased her panic as he promised not to cause harm. With precision, he raised his tool and invoked his skill without hesitation. A flash of energy surged as her wounded leg was instantly restored, the pain vanishing in an instant. Shocked, she stared at her healed limb while Vil calmly explained his powerful restoration. Curious to try another ability, Vil activated a different skill while the girl watched in confusion. With a surge of light, her slave collar shattered and vanished completely. Vil explained the danger she had unknowingly carried. Attempting to remove it herself would have been fatal. Grateful and smiling, the girl introduced herself as Poro and called him her big brother. As night fell, Vil prepared their camp, watched by Poro's puzzled yet trusting eyes. With a swing of his hammer, Vil activated a transmutation skill aimed at the thick tree. The wood responded instantly, twisting and reshaping under glowing energy, as branches curled upward. Stunned, Poro dropped her bread, unable to believe her eyes as the tree turned into a building. Before her stood a complete treehouse. Vil proudly offered it to her as their shelter. Elsewhere, scorched earth revealed destruction. Ancient dragons had attacked, alarming nearby soldiers. A scorched mountain of crystal and ash towered before the knights, silent testimony to a fierce battle. At its peak stood a lone warrior, Lady Caroline Iceberg, wielder of the holy ice sword, her presence commanding awe. The soldiers, stunned by her feat, begged her to return to the palace, believing her essential for the kingdom's stability. Caroline raised her sword, her expression unreadable. Examining the blade, she quietly noted it was chipped. Even the holy sword, revered and powerful, wasn't immune to wear surprising the soldiers with its chipped edge. Caroline, known for her stoicism, stunned everyone with a rare, gentle smile. With a graceful turn, she vanished without a trace, leaving only confusion behind. Back in the royal capital, she descended from the sky, light-hearted and radiant. A teasing cat perched on her shoulder, hinting at her eagerness to see the smithing prince. A soft expression spread across Caroline's face as she whispered her joy at soon seeing Vil again. Both sword and feline companion praised Vil's meticulous care, unmatched by anyone else. Though she claimed otherwise, her bold fight with dragons was clearly driven by her desire to see him. Finally arriving in town, Caroline walked confidently with her cat perched atop her head. At the door, a man greeted her warmly, though it wasn't Vil. As she entered, Caroline's presence stunned the man, who immediately recognized her title. She asked for Vil, only to learn from the man, his brother, that Vil was no longer there. With calm fury, she heard Vil had been fired and decided to wait, despite the shift in ownership. Anger exploded. With a blast of power, she hurled him across the room. Her eyes narrowed. This was the fool who dared cast Vil out. Caroline demanded Vil's whereabouts, insisting only he could repair the holy sword. With a confident grin, the new owner offered to take Vil's place and maintain the blade himself. Even the cat seemed doubtful, noting how rare it was to be truly seen. Perhaps only Vil and Caroline could. The man boldly claimed superiority, boasting he could outdo his brother. While Caroline turned away, he smirked, convinced she'd soon choose him instead. Fueled by jealousy, the new owner vowed to surpass Vil, determined to claim everything his brother loved. He began grinding the sword carelessly, ignoring its groans and protests as he worked too aggressively. Suddenly, the sword roared to life, transforming into a monstrous beast and lunging at him in rage. Screaming in pain, he staggered back, his arm overwhelmed by the weapon's fury. Caroline watched coolly, noting how badly he had offended the sword's will. The cat recalled how Vil always treated tools with respect, unlike the reckless man before them. Caroline stood unimpressed as the man denied the sword's emotions, calling it nonsense. She declared she would never return, stating Vil alone maintained the holy sword's will. Coldly she made it clear the difference between them, and Vil was like night and day. Even as the man begged, Caroline turned away without hesitation, as the shop lay in shambles. The new owner shouted in frustration, still desperate to prove he was better than Vil. Though he tried to justify himself, the truth hit Caroline had sworn never to return. His assistant panicked, warning him that offending her meant losing the entire kingdom's trust. Chaos erupted as the royal family cancelled their orders, and pressure mounted from all sides. Overwhelmed, his partner screamed at him to leave. He had ruined everything. Shock spread across their faces as they realized just how many clients had pulled their orders. Far from the chaos, Poro enjoyed the comforts of her new life: warm clothes, delicious food, and a peaceful bed, with a cheerful tone. Vil explained the enchantments he added to their home, including food creation and magical protection. Admiration sparkled in Poro's eyes as she praised her big brother's talents. Vil smiled softly, finally feeling seen after pouring his efforts into perfect work every day. Poro looked up, eyes shining, and declared with certainty that her big brother was a truly great person. Meanwhile, Vil reflected on his family: his grandfather a legend, his father a skilled craftsman, both admired by many. Though they taught him well, he saw himself as just average, someone ordinary among giants. He brushed off praise, believing he was simply a blacksmith, doing his part. At his core, Vil wanted only one thing: to make others smile with his work. Vil smiled as he noticed Poro sound asleep. She must have been worn out after everything. Later that night, under the quiet moonlight, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling in thought. Morning came with a stretch and a yawn. Vil rubbed his eyes, calling out casually to Poro instead. Of the small beastkin girl, a mature woman lay tangled in the sheets. Shocked, Vil froze. The girl he'd cared for had mysteriously transformed overnight. Vil woke up in shock, finding an unfamiliar woman asleep in his bed. As he looked closer, he noticed her cat ears and was struck by her beauty and mysterious appearance. To his surprise, she suddenly greeted him cheerfully, calling him big brother. Startled by her mature form, Vil stumbled back, struggling to grasp the situation. She calmly explained her transformation, revealing she had undergone an evolution. Vil asked Poro about her sudden transformation, and she explained that absorbing mana allowed her to evolve. Uncertain about her intentions, he questioned her persistence, but she admitted she had nowhere else to go. Blushing, Poro expressed her desire to serve and stay by Vil's side from now on. Without warning, she proposed making kittens, causing Vil to panic and flee in confusion. Their journey continued until they noticed something wrong. An entire village had vanished beneath water. Vil came across a strange signpost, marking the village as dead end, raising his concern. Arriving at the site, he found only a vast lake where the village should have been. Spotting people in the distance, he and Poro moved closer to seek answers. An old man introduced himself as Arthur, explaining the entire village had sunk. Flooding from a storm devastated the village, leaving only elders behind with no way to rebuild. Without saying much, Vil walked away, prompting Poro to call after him in confusion. He climbed a cliff and confirmed his suspicion: the surrounding mountains formed a basin, trapping rainwater. Staring over the flooded valley, he realized he might be able to change things. Summoning his massive divine hammer, he prepared to reshape the land itself. With determination in his eyes, Vil began his work, stunning Poro with his resolve. With a firm grip on the hammer, Vil swung with full force, channeling his power. The massive blow crashed into the ground, shaking the earth and carving a deep crater. Multiple strikes followed, each one widening the gap, until the land cracked open completely. As the final blow landed, water surged through newly formed channels, cascading down the cliffs. Villagers watched in awe as Vil stood before the newly formed reservoir, his plan a success. Water flowed endlessly as the villagers were called to return, only to find their homes ruined. Seeing the destruction, Vil calmly explained that old wooden structures couldn't withstand flooding. He summoned a creation stone and readied his hammer, infusing it with power using Golden Hand. A brilliant burst of magic erupted as he activated full restoration and creation simultaneously. Broken wood and shattered bricks were lifted, reshaping themselves into something new and durable. Vil stood proudly at the village gate, declaring the restoration complete, with a few improvements. The villagers gathered in disbelief, praising the sturdier buildings and asking if he was a powerful mage. Humbly he credited his skill, saying it was simple with the help of Golden Hand. Although grateful, the villagers insisted on repaying him somehow for the miracle he performed. With a spark of interest, Vil asked if they possessed any unusual weapons or tools. An ominous sword bound in talismans was revealed, radiating a dark, dangerous presence. Vil stepped inside the shrine, realizing it was no ordinary relic. It was a sealed demonic sword. The villagers recounted how a hero once used it to defeat an evil god, but lost his sanity. Without fear, Vil lifted the sword, astonished by its murderous aura, yet remaining composed. Cautiously, he told Poro to wait outside, not wanting her exposed to the sword's danger. Despite warnings from Arthur, Vil assured everyone he could handle the sword, and got to work. He invoked a powerful technique, Almighty Destruction, level 1, beginning the process of purification. As rust and grime fell away, the sword's true form began to emerge, shocking the onlookers. Vil spoke softly to the weapon, recognizing its pain and lingering stains from past battles. He explained that by understanding the sword's burden, its voice could be heard, and the blade responded. As Vil gripped the sword tighter, cursed energy surged through his arm, warning of its madness. A monstrous spirit burst from the blade, its form overwhelming, catching everyone off guard. The villagers explained that the sword's curse bound a spirit within, making it unusable by most. Vil declared the true curse wasn't madness, but restriction. The weapon could only choose certain wielders. Despite pleas to let go, he stood firm, determined to face the spirit directly, confronted the sword's spirit, acknowledging its curse and the pain of being abandoned. With quiet compassion, he expressed sorrow for its long years of suffering and isolation. The spirit, now vulnerable, pleaded for acknowledgement and release from its torment. Vil declared his belief that even tools should bring joy, not fear or misery. With a gentle smile, he promised never to leave it alone again, offering trust and companionship. Activated Golden Hand, enveloping the cursed sword with divine energy as everyone watched in awe. Declaring his role as a blacksmith, he reaffirmed his mission to restore broken tools with resolve. He gave the sword a new name, Yozora, and vowed to complete it fully. The spirit surged upward, its form twisting as it reacted to the power surrounding it. Calling forth almighty refinement, Vil prepared to purify the cursed essence once and for all. In the kingdom of Geta Nurga, a woman searched for Vil, sensing something unusual through her companion. Far away, a cloaked figure observed the sky. Noting the rise of a new holy sword, Vil faced a dark, chaotic entity, raising his hammer in defiance. As the beast's power surged, he activated a sealed scroll, releasing a radiant force. From it, a female figure gracefully materialized, her form taking shape mid-air. She acknowledged him as her creator, not just a blacksmith. She introduced herself as Yozora, the spirit of the Holy Sword of Darkness, reborn through Vil's hands. Transformed from a demonic blade to a sacred weapon, she now swore loyalty to Vil. The sword spirit is beauty left the beastkin girl in awe, surprised that she could even see her. Vil tossed the holy sword to the girl named Poro. She caught it, confused by her ability to wield it. With surprising ease, Poro unleashed a swift display of sword techniques as energy circled around her. She confessed that her movements felt guided by the sword, not by training or thought. Vil explained that he had fed the sword with holy mana, recalled his grandfather's wisdom, revealing that he infused divine power when naming the sword. An elder praised Vil, astonished that a human had achieved the creation of a holy sword. Despite the praise, Vil felt conflicted, remembering his grandfather's unfulfilled dream of forging such a relic. He admitted the blade wasn't entirely his creation, only a completion of what came before. Though satisfied with Yozora's joy, Vil vowed to one day craft a divine relic entirely of his own. From afar, a cloaked woman observed the blast of divine energy, and reacted with disbelief. She and her companion realized the holy sword wasn't sent from the heavens, it had been forged in their world. Astonished, she processed the revelation that a human had achieved what was thought impossible, breaking into laughter. She teased her companion for missing the significance of the event. With certainty, she declared Vil the creator. Now, the world would finally witness his unmatched talent. Carol sensed a serious threat and urgently ordered Corey to track down the source of the holy sword's emergence. Far away, Vil plotted his next move, choosing to leave for the distant empire of Madolka. Poro drove their newly acquired carriage, grateful for the villagers' unexpected gift. They had received it as thanks for the support and aid they'd given the local people. With resolve, Vil entrusted the holy sword of darkness to Poro, believing in her strength to wield it. Vil gently entrusted Yozora to Poro, asking her to protect the sword and bring joy to others. While enjoying the breeze, Poro began training, guided by Yozora, who offered to teach her swordsmanship. Suddenly, a powerful gust surged down from above, alarming everyone riding the carriage. A massive beast descended with force, shaking the ground as it landed before them. Towering above, a fearsome dragon glared menacingly, its presence signaling the start of a deadly confrontation. Vil spotted the green dragon swooping down, recognizing the threat and shouting a warning. Rather than panic, he noted the dragon's scales would be ideal for crafting high-grade armor. Yozora volunteered to confront the beast, calling it an opportunity for Poro to gain real combat experience. Bothvil and Yozora encouraged Poro to join the fight, eager to witness her growth. As the dragon roared, the duo stood firm, Poro bracing her sword, Yozora poised beside her. With Yozora's encouragement, Poro charged toward the towering dragon without hesitation. Drawing the sacred blade, she prepared for a decisive strike, while Vil watched closely. She leapt high and slashed the dragon's back, landing a direct hit and expressing her excitement. However, the attack barely pierced the thick scales, the wound too shallow to stop the beast. In retaliation, the enraged dragon twisted its massive body and prepared for a crushing counterattack. Panicked, Poro called out to Yozora, unsure of how to proceed against the fierce beast. Yozora urged her to trust both the sword and herself, reminding her to see with her heart. Together, they embraced the darkness around them, reaching for the smallest spark of hope. At last, Poro found clarity. She focused her spirit, ready to strike with purpose and strength. The dragon countered, unleashing a torrent of fire toward the pair, turning the sky into flame. In a dazzling fusion of spirit and steel, Poro pierced through the firestorm, delivering a powerful blow to the dragon's head. Her strike landed with force, sending the beast crashing to the ground in defeat. Poro celebrated her victory, while Yozora reminded her she had barely tapped into the sword's true power. Though the dragon survived, the battle marked a milestone in Poro's growth. Vil praised her effort, acknowledging it as a solid start for a swordswoman, still finding her path. Smiled warmly as Yozora and Poro shared a quiet moment of acknowledgement and trust. Meanwhile, Carol raced ahead, aware of the Holy Sword's global implications and its ability to shift power. She warned that if the world learned of Vil's talent, nations might go to war over him. Rather than wait, she decided to secure her position by marrying Vil before anyone else could. Knowing his skill would attract women worldwide, Carol sprinted ahead, determined to propose first. While racing toward the kingdom's border, Carol demanded updates on the sword's location, unwilling to fall behind. Realizing they neared the empire of Madolka, she feared the appearance of one of its elite heroes. Suddenly, a deafening screech and violent tremors interrupted Vil and the others, mid-conversation. Bolts of thunder erupted from the sky, and Vil instinctively recognized the overwhelming presence approaching. Emerging from the storm, a fierce woman wielding a blade appeared, declaring she'd come for Sir Vil. Vil encounters a woman from his past who recognizes him immediately, moves first, testing the beast-eared guard, who positions herself in front of Vil to shield him. She reacts too late as the woman advances quickly, clearly measuring the guard's speed and resolve. Weapons clash when the guard counters the whip with precise timing, stopping the strike before it reaches Vil. The woman reveals her powerful holy weapon, escalating the confrontation and signaling a serious battle ahead. News spreads that the heroine of the Holy Lightning Sword has made contact with Vil. Across the world, 6 Holy Sword users are revealed, each bound to battle maidens who wield their strength. Among them stands Lakia, the Lightning Heroine, firmly gripping Thunder Thorn while fixing her focus on Vil. Hostile intent rises, as another figure decides to act quickly. The clash resumes when Lakia moves first, her whip cutting through the air as the conflict sharply escalates. Lakia swings her whip wide, catching her opponent mid-air and asserting control over the exchange. Momentum shifts as the beast-eared fighter twists her body and strikes back while falling. Confidence shows on Lakia's face when the counter fails to break through her weapon. The guard steadies herself and releases a focused attack, forcing distance between them. Power erupts across the battlefield as lightning surges outward. Lakia presses the attack with confidence, treating the exchange as a one-sided lesson rather than a serious duel. A violent surge of power collides with an invisible barrier, the refined defense halting destruction at its edge. Standing calmly amid the fading shockwaves, Vil reveals his presence, untouched by the overwhelming force. The battlefield falls silent as observers realize the scale of power that was just neutralized. Without hesitation, Vil moves forward and catches the injured guard. Vil supports the injured guard and acknowledges that the opponent's strength exceeded what she could handle alone. Watching from a distance, Lakia dismisses the guard's worth and rejects her as an acceptable partner beside Vil. Stepping forward, Lakia recalls an old agreement and openly declares her intent to claim Vil through victory. The sudden proposal shocks both Vil and the guard, creating confusion rather than hesitation. Resolute and aggressive, Lakia whirls her whip again, announcing a final confrontation without holding back. Dark clouds coil across the sky as thunder gathers, dwarfing everyone below with its growing pressure. Realization strikes the onlookers that Lakia had never fought seriously, and the danger escalates, beyond control. Raising her weapon, Lakia unleashes her ultimate technique while Vil prepares himself for the impact. Lightning crashes downward, shaped into a raging draconic force aimed directly at the battlefield. The colossal thunderstorm descends in full form, shaking the land and marking the start of a decisive moment. Sensing the incoming catastrophe, Vil resolves to release his full power to prevent total destruction. A massive counterforce erupts as Vil's ability collides head-on with the descending thunder beast. With a simple motion, he redirects the remaining energy, dispersing the attack without strain. Shock spreads among the witnesses as Lakia acknowledges the effortless defense before her. Attention turns to Vil's hidden trait, the ominous evil eye finally revealed. Vil explains that Lakia was cursed in childhood. Fear spread through the empire, and despite every effort, the curse could not be lifted, leading to a death sentence. Execution was delayed when the truth surfaced, revealing her as both a holy sword-bearer and a calamity. Vil admits the curse exceeded his abilities, leaving him unable to remove it completely. In the end, he sealed the evil eye with a powerful device, preserving her life at great cost. Imprisoned for years, Lakia reaches her limit and resolves to stake everything on escaping her fate. Facing Vil directly, she entrusts her life to the man who once saved her from execution. Memories surface of her fleeing the empire, determined to grow strong enough to stand beside him. Distance closes between them as Vil calmly makes a decision that changes everything. Ignoring the danger and warnings around him, Vil prepares to remove the seal on Lakia's evil eye. Vil steps forward with calm resolve, asking Lakia to entrust her life to his judgment without hesitation. Tears mix with determination as Lakia accepts, binding her fate completely to him. The seal is released, and the cursed eye reacts violently as hidden flaws are exposed. He strikes without restraint, refining his power to shatter the curse at its core. Light clears the sky as both land safely, the evil eye destroyed, and Lakia finally freed. Shock spreads across her face as vision returns, revealing clear light where destruction once dwelled. Standing opposite her, Vil confirms his presence, allowing relief to replace fear and disbelief. Observers notice the change immediately, realizing the cursed eye has transformed into something sacred. An explanation follows as the curse is redefined, its demonic structure repurposed rather than erased. With careful reconstruction complete, the reborn eye stands as proof of Vil's unmatched refinement skill. Boundless excitement, Lakia demands further proof of Vil's strength, pushing closer without restraint. Momentum collapses into chaos as both tumble into the grass, the moment turning awkward and uncontrolled. Gratitude overflows as Lakia realizes the curse is truly gone, her emotions finally released. Later that night, Vil returns to his workshop, surrounded by tools and quiet concentrations. Sparks scatter as a new creation takes shape, signaling another legend beginning at his forge. A mysterious man reveals a powerful false seal, demonstrating its ability to create tools beyond normal limits. Vil refuses the offer, sensing hidden danger behind the tempting power, and choosing restraint instead. Left alone in the shadows, the hooded figure departs, entrusting the cursed seal to fate and future consequences. A confident woman activated her new right eye, claiming it would make Vil hers if she won. With flair, she unleashed the power of her Eye of Divinity to control time around him. However, her attempt failed, and she was caught off guard and pinned down mid-attack. Vil calmly explained that he had refined the cursed eye and made himself immune to it, while she sulked. Others praised Vil as a god, leaving her chance completely ruined. A towering goddess-like figure stood atop a pile of skulls, her presence signaling destruction and majesty. Meanwhile, Vil traveled toward the empire of Maduka, preparing to meet the Empress. After restoring a cursed eye, as the imperial capital Carter came into view, its massive barrier shimmered over the city like a dome. Peering out the carriage, Vil was surprised to visibly detect the magical shield others couldn't perceive. Acknowledging his growth, the woman explained that only skilled blacksmiths could perceive such protective constructs. At the gates of the imperial palace, Vil and his companions ascended the grand staircase toward the throne room. Inside, the Empress Artemis reclined with quiet authority, acknowledging Lakia's return with mild surprise. Her legacy as a warrior queen was revealed. She once defended the capital with her own army during a catastrophe. Recognizing V, Artemis greeted him warmly after years apart, their reunion tinged with nostalgia. Though frail, she thanked Vil sincerely for helping Lakia, revealing her role in orchestrating the curse's removal. Despite advanced medicine, even the Empire couldn't heal the Empress's deteriorating lungs. With calm acceptance, Artemis admitted her life was nearing its final chapter. Though Vil offered hope, she gently declined, recognizing the limits of her broken body. Content, she expressed relief at being able to thank him before passing. Before leaving, Vil made a respectful request, which the Empress agreed to with sincerity and grace. Vil offered to heal the Empress's broken body, driven by determination and care. Though doubtful, Artemis reminded him that her illness wasn't a simple wound to repair. Undeterred, he proposed to restore her form, rather than cure the incurable. Encouraged by his ally's faith, she gave her quiet approval to proceed. With trust granted, Vil activated his golden hand, prepared to reshape life through his craft. Vil began the restoration, invoking his full power with intense concentration and purpose. A powerful surge engulfed the room, enveloping the Empress in radiant transformative energy. Outside, a dazzling explosion of 7 colors drew everyone's attention as the healing reached its peak. General Adrak stormed in, demanding answers, only to be reminded that the guests were trusted by the Empress. Urgently, he revealed a crisis: demonic insects approached the capital after the city's barrier had collapsed. Shock spread through the group as Vil's silence confirmed the threat approaching the capital. Above the horizon, monstrous demonic insects with grotesque forms darkened the sky in swarms. Panic erupted among the soldiers and civilians, who rushed to retreat behind the palace walls. Lakia, frozen by the horror, realized the crisis unfolding was beyond imagination. General Adrak ordered evacuations as Lakia insisted on fighting, determined to face the threat herself. With the barrier engineers absent, the Empire faced disaster without technical aid. Unshaken, calmly declared he would handle the repair himself. General Adrak panicked, demanding to know what Vil was attempting as he approached the device. Ignoring the protest, Vil activated his golden hand, unleashing radiant power into the mechanism. As energy surged, he recognized the design: an identical magic circle to the one on the cursed eye. Vil fearlessly launched himself into battle, striking a colossal insect midair with raw force. Unleashing almighty refinement, he obliterated the monster with a devastating energy slash back at the palace. Everyone watched as the battlefield lit up, stunned by the overwhelming display. With a calm voice, Vil assured them the bugs were likely eradicated by the light. He revealed the barrier had been upgraded to auto-disintegrate threats, making the capital self-defended. Vil examined the damaged barrier layers, concluding the sabotage was deliberate, not natural decay. Confronting Adrak with a calm smile, he hinted at guilt without naming anyone directly. Footsteps interrupted the rising tension, drawing shocked reactions from everyone present. A stunning figure emerged, radiant, regal, and reborn, leaving the room breathless at the sight. With serene authority, the restored woman declared her identity: Empress Artemis of the Empire. Vil and the others stood stunned as the youthful Empress Artemis revealed her complete transformation. She explained that Vil's restoration didn't just heal her, it recreated her body from the inside, outmoved by the miracle. The knights below proclaimed her return with resounding cheers. Artemis ordered the general's arrest, but he erupted in rage, resisting violently, screaming devotion to a dark power. Adrak triggered the explosive strapped to his body. Lakia and the others braced themselves as Vil questioned the meaning of 7 powers. Without hesitation, Artemis launched into action. Her powerful strike aimed at the traitorous general. Her high kick connected with devastating force, launching Adrak skyward like a missile. Declaring her wrath, Artemis vowed that no enemy of the Empire would escape her judgment. Moments later, Adrak exploded midair, reduced to nothing under her overwhelming might. The people cheered for Artemis's return, while she asked how to repay Vil's help. Blushing, she hinted at something deeper, moved by his humble response. Lakia and the others watched, realizing they now faced unexpected rivalry for the Empress's heart. Vil turned quietly, still pondering the meaning behind the words 7 powers. At the headquarters of the Hassan Company, panic erupted. The president of the company, overwhelmed by pressure, realized that even one more lost client could collapse their business entirely. As she tried to manage the crisis, someone forcefully knocked, demanding her attention. To her shock, the visitor was the S-ranked master of the Adventurers Guild. Grateful for a sword crafted by Vil, the guildmaster came to order more, offering hope in a time of decline. A delivery of finely crafted swords arrived, presented with pride and hopeful anticipation. Inspecting one blade closely, the guildmaster tested its edge with swift, fluid motion. In an instant, the sword shattered upon contact, unable to withstand real combat. Despite its flawless appearance, the weapon was a poorly made imitation, shocking its creator. Outraged, the guildmaster declared legal action, citing endangerment of her subordinates' lives due to the deception. The company president collapsed in tears, begging for forgiveness and pleading to avoid a lawsuit that would destroy them. Without emotion, the guildmaster declared the company's fate sealed, unable to ignore the betrayal. Ignoring her cries, the guildmaster left with final words. Court would decide their punishment. Elsewhere, counterfeit weapons were mass-produced, using a forged seal, deceiving buyers for profit. Suddenly, a sword shattered mid-test, exposing the dangerous fraud in full view. A blacksmith discovered one of her swords among the broken debris, shocked to see it ruined. Realization hit the entire shipment had been forged with counterfeit seals, deceiving everyone. Furious, her partner blamed her recklessness, warning that the Adventurers Guild would take legal action. Despite the danger, the forger dismissed concerns, prioritizing profit over integrity and demanding more sales. Disgusted, the woman condemned the betrayal, defending the honor of true blacksmiths. Frustration boiled over as she warned that reckless shortcuts would destroy their customer base completely. Adjusting her glasses, she challenged the arrogant claim. Did he truly believe he surpassed Vil? With sharp authority, she demanded proof. Forge, a genuine grade, a sword, not a forgery. Her tone shifted to disappointment. His incompetence had cost them everything. Realizing her blindness, she finally acknowledged Vil's unmatched skill, the true foundation of their success. Furious, Cyril rejected the idea of ever depending on Vil again, pride clouding his judgment. Gripping the cursed seal, he proclaimed he could transform worthless blades into legendary relics, but his partner saw through the delusion, calling out his ignorance and the worthlessness of fakes. Meanwhile, Vil silently watched, his calm presence a stark contrast to the chaos behind him. Too late. Cyril realized his failure just as a sharp slap shattered his arrogance. She declared the truth. Vil was the more capable blacksmith, a fact that couldn't be denied. Crushed by reality, Cyril collapsed, overwhelmed by bitterness as Vil's name echoed in his head. His rage spiraled out of control, dark energy consuming him while a hidden figure watched with a grin. Elsewhere, Vil received a vast mountainous territory as a reward from the Empire. Grateful yet humble, Vil insisted he hadn't needed any reward. Though the Empress insisted otherwise, Vil humbly declined the formal title of Lord. Though he now held dominion over Crowley, excitement filled the air as his companion looked forward to building a new workshop near the village. Upon entering, Vil noted the unsettling silence. No villagers, no activity, only stillness. Without warning, a sudden scream pierced the air, followed by swift footsteps in the distance. A terrified girl collapsed while fleeing, injured and whispering, a desperate plea for help. Monstrous lizard creature emerged, towering over the girl with claws raised and a roar shaking the air. In a flash, magical barriers materialized, trapping the beast inside an airtight prison of force. Yet one claw managed to break through, lunging dangerously close to the terrified girl's face. From afar, Vil activated his technique while his ally dashed in to protect the child. Eyes blazing with fury, she condemned the attack. Harming a helpless girl was beyond forgiveness. The girl suddenly cried out, begging them not to harm the creature, calling it her grandfather. Her desperate plea brought the warrior to a halt, confusion flickering in her eyes. Glancing back, she silently awaited Vil's decision on what to do next. As they approached, the girl realized Vil was the new lord, prompting her and others to kneel. With raised hands and hopeful voices, the villagers begged Vil to rescue them from ruin. The girl introduced herself as Noah and gathered the villagers to explain everything to Vil. She revealed that the monster was once her grandfather, Lagaro, who had served as village chief, exposing her back. Noah showed the lizard-like scales evidence of a growing curse. The white dragon god's winds carried a mark that slowly transformed victims into lizardmen. Everyone stared solemnly at the cursed creature. Once human, now lost in scaled form, Vil stepped forward confidently, noticing a magic circle forming around the cursed figure. With calm precision, he activated a spell, trapping the lizardman in swirling magical energy, calling forth his unique skill. Vil invoked the power of the Golden Hand, A burst of light followed, shattering the curse as the creature's monstrous form began to peel away. Moments later, Ligaro stood fully human again, embracing Noah in joyful reunion. The villagers rejoiced as the curse on Ligaro was finally broken, thanks to Vil's power. Excitement spread quickly, and others rushed forward, hoping to be cured as well. With everyone healed, Vil prepared to leave without fanfare. He suspected a greater threat loomed ahead, one tied to the White Dragon God and ancient forces. Vil and his companion arrived at the White Dragon mountain range, where twisted roots engulfed ancient ruins. They stood before a valley drowned in thick miasma. The corrupted air made it clear the area was long abandoned by life. Protected by a barrier, Vil examined a melting creature destroyed by the toxic surroundings. Despite the ominous signs, the source of the curse remained hidden. Suddenly, an unseen force burst from the ground, knocking Vil's companion backward. A massive shifting form emerged from the miasma, its presence warping the ground beneath it. Confusion gripped Vil's companion. Towering above them, a dragon revealed itself, its features unmistakable. The White Dragon God had finally appeared. Closer inspection sent a chill down their spines. Despite the name, its scales were completely blackened by corruption. With a deafening roar, the beast unleashed a stream of fire, scorching everything in its path. Reacting swiftly, Vil leapt into action, shielding his partner just as flames exploded around them. An immense wave of fire crashed down as Vil activated his strongest defense, shielding both of them from destruction. Confidently, he declared the barrier's strength, a refined version surpassing even the capital's defenses. Calmly raising his hammer, Vil explained the barrier's dual ability to block both miasma and physical blows. With a thunderous impact, the corrupted dragon slammed into the earth, sending tremors through the battlefield. The dragon and Vil plunged into a hidden underground chamber below. Dust settled slowly as light pierced through the broken cavern, revealing the aftermath of the fall. Vil rose from the rubble and checked on Poro, who survived thanks to his barrier's protection. He observed the dragon struggling to fly and questioned whether even such a creature could be cursed. Recognition struck suddenly. Vil dashed forward, realizing a critical detail he had missed until now. As the dragon roared, he recalled stepping on its tail, possibly the cause of its fury. Vil realized the dragon wasn't enraged, it was suffering. Pain radiated from its body rather than hostility. With calm determination, he spoke to the wounded creature, promising to restore its dignity if given a chance. Raising his hammer, he approached with trust. The dragon lowered its head, accepting his aid without resistance. He unleashed almighty refinement, releasing energy that surrounded the dragon's cursed form. Bathed in radiant light, the dragon transformed, spreading its pure, restored wings once again. As the dragon admired its restored scales, Vil wondered aloud if dragons were always able to speak. The majestic beast clarified it was no ordinary creature, but a dragon god, thus capable of speech. Grateful for the restoration, the dragon expressed heartfelt thanks. Poro stood in awe at the revelation. Vil casually introduced himself as a traveling blacksmith, seemingly unfazed by the divine presence. Sharing a laugh, the dragon called him Crowley. Poro chimed in, declaring Vil as Lord of Crowley. Now, the dragon revealed that the name Crowley was once given to him by ancient kings, a title they now shared. Though the kingdom had long vanished, the dragon declared Vil the rightful new lord of this land. Vil then asked what caused the terrible curse that had once corrupted him. With sorrow, the dragon explained how grief consumed him after the kingdom lost its ruler. In his vulnerable state, a dark force struck, embedding the curse while he mourned. The dragon feared he had harmed the people, as his curse had spread with the mountain winds. Vil reassured him calmly, insisting that the blame did not lie with him. A concealed magic circle appeared beneath their feet, one only Vil could detect due to his skill. He explained its effects: it trapped victims and amplified violent emotions beyond control. Suspecting foul play, Vil identified the likely culprit, an organization known as the Seven Powers. Furious, the dragon roared a vow of vengeance toward the Seven Powers for the pain they had caused. He struck the ground, but the cursed circle still remained intact, resilient, and rooted. With precision, Vil combined two skills, almighty destruction and almighty refinement, unleashing them in a single blow. The cursed seal shattered completely, scattering its magical bindings in every direction. In its place, the ancient castle stood, renewed circle, gone, land restored, and hope returned. With a warm smile, Vil told the dragon it was now free to come and go without restriction. Suddenly, a divine figure named Lady Crowley appeared, astonished by the sanctuary's creation. She explained that the castle had become a celestial domain, restoring her full divine power on earth. Vil, surprised by his own feat, realized he'd unknowingly built a sanctuary for a god. Before he could react further, she noticed a strange symbol on his hand, the mark of the Sunday. Lady Crowley identified the mark on Vil's hand as the proof of one who grasps the Sunday, a sigil of immense rarity. Only a handful in history had received it, making Vil's possession of the sigil extraordinary. Surprised, she recalled encountering a similar mark within her own divine territory. They explored the ruins together, and soon uncovered a matching sun-shaped seal embedded in stone. Confirming its authenticity, they realized it was an exact match linked across time and divine domains. Lady Crowley revealed the place was once the late king's favorite, but its purpose remained unknown. Despite her efforts, the circle showed no reaction. Vil suspected a hidden mechanism. As he approached, his sigil began to glow, triggering a sudden reaction from the floor. Tendrils of light reached out, pulling at him as the mark resonated and activated the seal. A burst of light engulfed Vil as a mysterious hand reached toward him. The next moment, Vil stood alone within a strange, circular structure surrounded by unfamiliar stone walls. He stepped forward, confused, and saw a vast open space filled with odd architecture and distant towers. A voice echoed in his mind, explaining a telepathic skill. Vil listened, astonished by its power. Two figures appeared, one calling him Master Vil. Revealing the skill also connected their senses. Vil realized he had been displaced by the sigil, now standing in an unfamiliar, strange city. Curious, he approached a surface and confirmed it was a wall, reinforcing the oddness of the environment. Although the space was bright, he noticed the absence of the sun, adding to his unease. He deduced the sky was an illusion, part of a vivid underground artificial environment. Questioning its purpose, Vil suspected the sigil was linked to the hidden Haposai workshop. Vil deduced that even mighty beings like Crowley couldn't enter, hinting at powerful restrictions within the workshop. Despite her strength, a demon girl admitted that her abilities had boundaries, unable to bypass the barrier. As Vil explored further, he sensed a peculiar difference in the texture of a section near the fountain. Touching it triggered a swirling reaction, and energy began to surround his body rapidly. Before he could react, a spiraling gate materialized, pulling him toward an unknown destination. The demon girl shouted in alarm, recognizing the place as one of the seven hells, an ultra-rare dungeon called the Fall. Vil was stunned to learn he was the first to ever enter, as no traces of previous visitors existed within the dungeon. While exploring the tunnel, he discovered a peculiar ore embedded in the wall, unlike anything he knew. Excitement filled him as he realized the mineral was completely unknown, perfect for forging new tools. Meanwhile, she warned that dungeon walls were said to be indestructible, making collection impossible. With a swing of his hammer, Vil activated Almighty Destruction, breaking down the dungeon wall effortlessly. The demon girl panicked, warning him of the overwhelming danger such a powerful skill could pose. Unfazed, Vil casually summoned a mysterious storage box, treating the event as routine. He explained it was part of the Golden Hand skill, though it was never meant to have extensions. Confidently, Vil listed 5 high-tier abilities, leaving her completely stunned by his cheat-like talents. Vil mentioned he wasn't fond of one skill, but decided to proceed with mapping the dungeon regardless. With a swift motion and a use of almighty refinement, he revealed the task was already complete. Unrolling a scroll, he displayed the full map of the labyrinth with a confident smile. He explained that vibrations from his hammer had transmitted through the ground, tracing the structure like sonar. Thou praised as godlike, Vil humbly declared he was simply skilled at creating as a blacksmith. Vil returned from the dungeon through the gate, greeted warmly by Poro, who rushed to embrace him. Tears welled in her eyes as she clung to him, overwhelmed with relief. He was shocked to learn that although only an hour passed for him, 10 days had gone by outside. To ease her worries, Vil offered a gift as a heartfelt apology. The enchanted item allowed them to speak across any distance, even from within a dungeon. Poro hugged Vil tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude for the telepathic gift he had created. Using ore from the dungeon walls, Vil crafted a hair ornament capable of indestructible long-distance communication. Impressed, Crowley could barely keep up as Vil calmly made another unexpected request. Meanwhile, in Lamont village, an elder pushed himself hard, determined to restore the damaged homes quickly. Suddenly, a woman cried out in surprise as someone began helping her without warning. A majestic white dragon descended from the sky, carrying Vil and his allies on its back. The villagers were stunned, recognizing it as the fabled white dragon god. Fear spread quickly as rumors of a curse surrounding the dragon caused panic. Saddened, The dragon prepared to leave, believing its presence only brought misfortune. Vil declared the curse broken, and the villagers rejoiced, praising him for lifting their burden. Assured the villagers that the white dragon god had suffered too, and came seeking forgiveness. He gently asked the dragon if she wished to apologize herself, knowing her heart. Suggesting a solution, he requested a piece of her scale to serve as material. With a soft glow, he caught the shimmering scale and prepared for crafting, unleashing almighty refinement. Vil triggered a powerful reaction to create something meaningful from her gift. The white dragon god rose tall among rocky peaks, her body radiating with divine brilliance. A magnificent fountain erupted at her base, casting shimmering light in all 7 colors. Villagers bathed in the waters, instantly soothed and invigorated by its magical touch. Vil revealed he had used her scales to craft the fountain, granting lasting healing to the people. Proudly, he proclaimed the miracle any illness or wound could now be cured by her sacred gift. As villagers bowed in gratitude, Noah offered words of peace, accepting the white dragon god's heartfelt apology. The dragon softly thanked Vil for guiding her through redemption. Suddenly, a messenger owl landed on Vil's shoulder, carrying an urgent note. He opened the letter, surprised to find it was sent from the Empire. The message warned of Lady Caroline's grave injury in battle, requesting Vil's immediate return. The city of Carter faced an overwhelming assault from unknown monstrous forces. A determined woman sprinted through the chaos, pushing past writhing tentacles. Massive creature loomed over them, far more evolved than before. Its towering form and regenerative limbs made it clear conventional weapons would no longer suffice. From high above, the woman summoned an enormous glowing disc with unwavering resolve. She confronted the monster. Twin moons loomed above as the devastating crescent icebreak launched, flooding the sky with intense magical energy. The impact tore through the landscape, erupting in blinding light and violent force. Debris scattered while the creature writhed beneath the crushing weight of the frozen assault. Carol pushed forward, her body resisting the freezing shock, unwavering in her resolve. Despite the damage, the monster endured, prompting her to strike once more without hesitation. Corey looked on solemnly as Carol collapsed, blood dripping from her mouth, barely able to stand. With calm determination, he stepped forward, bidding her farewell and expressing his gratitude for their time together. Carol reached out, pleading for him to stop, but his decision was already made. Unleashing his ultimate move, Corey transformed, his roar freezing the monstrous foe in place. Carol awoke suddenly in a hospital bed, screaming his name in anguish and disbelief. Caroline awoke to comforting words, her injuries bandaged as Vil and others stood close by, ensuring her safety. Emotion surged as she quietly whispered Corey's name, only to meet Vil's reassuring gaze. Outside, concern spread. To Caroline, the holy ice sword wasn't just a weapon, it was like family. Vil began questioning the sword's fate and its assigned caretaker, seeking a way to reverse the damage. He learned the truth: once a holy sword's physical form is destroyed, its essence fades, like a dying soul. Vil solemnly acknowledged the grim reality once shattered. A holy sword's life was effectively over. Carol clutched the broken shard, apologizing for not being able to thank Corey properly. Surprise filled the room as everyone recognized the fragment. It was Corey's core. Explaining its significance, Vil revealed the core was the heart of a holy sword, its vital source of power. Hope returned as he declared the possibility of restoration, prompting Carol to ask if he truly could revive Corey. Vil hesitated, knowing that one wrong move could erase Corey's essence forever. Caroline clutched the core, declaring that life without Corey held no meaning for her. Moved by her resolve, Vil watched as she extended the fragile shard with unwavering hands. Doubt flickered in his mind, restoring a holy sword from nothing surpassed, even his grandfather's skill. Despite uncertainty, he began the ritual. Hammer in hand, as Caroline whispered a desperate plea for Corey's return. Vil's eyes widened as the core revealed a hidden blueprint. Activating his skill, he raised the hammer with urgency, channeling the techniques of his forebears. He focused all energy into forging something new, something never done before. With a determined strike, he unleashed relic reforging. Elsewhere, an enormous frozen beast towered over a mountain. The crowd watched in awe as they learned the truth. The ice heroine had risked everything to contain the creature. The tentacled beast broke free, slithering forward as Lady Lakia led the command to open fire. Despite the coordinated attack, the monster advanced. Observers noted it had become far more powerful than before, unfazed. A warrior unleashed lightning cobra, aiming to strike the core with sheer electric force. Lakia roared, confident her strike would end it, but the creature resisted the lightning barrage, amidst the chaos. Soldiers fell, those who touched the tentacles collapsed. Their life force rapidly drained away. Cracks spread rapidly through the ice as the monster resisted, refusing to die, even under intense assault. Stepping forward, Lakia silenced the others and declared her intent to finish it alone using sword art. She ordered a full retreat, fully aware that her chosen technique would drain both her strength and her blade. Preparing her weapon, she warned it might get rough, apologizing to her trusted sword Kaminari. With a final farewell, she smiled, ready to give everything. The monstrous beast rose again, shattering the earth beneath it with each crushing movement, eyes glowing. Lakia invoked Divine Time Lord's gaze, locking the creature's movements for a brief moment. She shouted the activation sword art release, unleashing a surge of magic that engulfed the battlefield. Crackling energy surrounded her body as she launched skyward, her final attack gathering at full force. With thunderous power, she summoned Storm Serpent Jafer Mungandra, striking down upon the enemy with divine fury. The serpent's impact crashed into the earth, sending shockwaves across the battlefield in a blinding surge. A massive crater formed, engulfed in smoke. Silence following the chaos as dust filled the air. Hovering above, Lakia exhaled faintly, drained but standing. A dark shadow descended behind her. Tentacles pierced her body mid-air, her energy spent. She had no strength to resist. Falling helplessly, she whispered an apology to Kaminari, realizing this battle was over for her. A surge rippled through the battlefield, stirring an unknown force buried deep within the storm. Lakia's eye flashed as time warped. Against all odds, she stood again, confused but ready. Without a word, she moved forward. Her weapon steady, Vil quietly watching from behind. Suddenly, countless tentacles erupted, aiming to crush the figures below as a new beast emerged. Vil gripped his hammer, gazing upward, whispering a question: what is a weapon meant to be? Corey's essence glowed as it rose, merging with Caroline's wish to protect. Caroline embraced him through tears, overwhelmed by his return. Vil confronted the monster, questioning its joy in causing destruction and pain. His calm broke. With steeled eyes, he prepared to unleash his true power. Vil stood before the massive tentacled monster as its limbs lashed out, scattering warriors and tearing into the sand. A woman with an eye patch rushed forward, gripping her weapon tightly. She knew her attacks were powerful, but this creature was no ordinary beast. Shush struck with all her might, slicing the monstrous limb in a burst of explosive force that echoed across the battlefield. To her shock, the severed tentacle twitched. It looked like it was regenerating, only slower than before. Realization dawned. Vale had upgraded her weapon, Thunder Thorn. Now it wasn't just repaired, it was stronger than ever. With a single powerful swing, the cat-eared warrior named Poro tore through the monster's flesh, severing limbs and bursting the swollen sacs. A warning echoed across the field. Contact with the tentacles would sap the energy of any holy weapon. Poro readied her blade anyway, drawing on her courage. Suddenly the creature's core twisted, reshaping into the form of a massive divine lion with glowing eyes and thunderous steps. Dozens of tendrils burst from its back, surrounding the defenders as the lion's roar split the air. Overwhelmed, the warriors scrambled. The sheer number of enemies left them with no choice but to fall back. Vil stepped forward, invoking almighty refinement to enhance his own body. He told the others to stand back and face the lion-like beast alone. In a blink, he vanished from the monster's view. Before it could react, Vil had already repositioned himself, stunning everyone with his speed. The beast retaliated, slamming its massive claw down, sending shockwaves across the ground. Effortlessly, Vil countered with a precise strike, tearing through the air with refined strength that shattered the incoming attack. Calmly, he explained his power. Almighty refinement turned him into a superhuman, even if only for a brief moment. A dragon's voice halted Vil. It recognized the lion's condition, a cursed beast lashing out in pain, just as it once had. Vil observed the creature and identified the corrupted jewel embedded in its forehead. That gem pulsating with dark energy was the source. Realizing it was rooted to the brain, Vil hesitated. A wrong move could inflict agony. The eye-patch warrior noted it resembled her own cursed eye. A glimpse of the curse's magical structure revealed a disturbing, chaotic design, intentionally crafted to cause suffering. Tension grew, the beast's claws tightened, its body tensed, driven by torment and fury beyond control. The lion lunged forward in a frenzy, its claws slashing wildly as rage consumed its mind. Vil stood firm. Without hesitation, he activated both Almighty Refinement and Almighty Destruction, enlarging his weapon mid-air to match the beast's power. The impact struck true. A thunderous blow shattered the cursed gem embedded in the lion's forehead, sending it collapsing backward. As dust settled, the others rushed in. The creature stirred, no longer hostile, just exhausted. Vil approached calmly. He smiled gently, declaring the curse broken and telling the lion to rest. Peace had finally been restored. The lion stirred, speaking for the first time. To Vil's surprise, she revealed herself as a lioness. Grateful and sincere, she thanked Vil for releasing her from the torment and madness of the cursed jewel. She vowed they would meet again, her eyes shining with warmth as Vil smiled and waved her off, from a distance. The girls looked on, one sighing in disbelief. Even a lioness now seemed to admire Vil. Just as the moment lightened, a sudden burst erupted nearby, another threat emerging, shattering the brief peace they had earned. From beneath the earth, a grotesque tentacled entity emerged in fury, shrieking in disbelief over its shattered jewel. Hovering under the sun, it raged aloud, confused how the lioness survived after its cursed magic was undone. Vil calmly stepped forward, revealing the truth. The being had stayed hidden, using its creations to act remotely. He smirked, claiming he simply read the structure of a shoddy item. The entity was rattled. He shouldn't have known anything. Vil remained unfazed. He vowed to dismantle its flawed form, calling its twisted design unworthy of life itself. The cursed being declared its mission to destroy the sacred relics, warning Vil not to stand in its way. Unshaken, Vil raised his weapon with resolve. He would take responsibility and purge the threat before him. Tendrils lashed out, threatening to consume anything they touched. The others offered help. But Vil warned them to stay back, changing tactics. He activated Steel Spear Forest, sending sharpened constructs flying from the ground toward the enemy. To his shock, the spears passed through harmlessly. The creature's form had somehow slipped through his attack. Ground erupted in a violent blast as Vil's failed attack triggered shock and concern among his allies. The cursed being mocked him, boasting that only divine objects could ever harm a godlike entity such as itself. Vil reasoned quickly, if gods could only be harmed by sacred relics, then those relics held the key. With resolve, he activated Golden Hand. His voice rang out as he connected with a legendary weapon, Divine Hammer MJ Fenir. Energy surged as he launched forward. The cursed foe, sensing the threat, prepared to intercept, vowing to destroy the sacred hammer before it struck. A holy sword pierced through the cursed creature, causing it to scream in agony. It couldn't comprehend how Vil wielded such a weapon. Calmly, Vil explained. The hammer was his true sacred relic, while the holy sword was something he forged himself. Though it was only a replica, his magic allowed him to copy a relic's power for a limited time, just enough to damage a divine being. He activated his fifth skill, Infinite Forgeries, summoning countless memory cubes into the air. Each cube stored the essence of relics. Using Golden Hand, Vil could recreate any of them. Dozens of divine weapons surged into view, forged by mana and Vil's skill. Temporary copies, yet powerful enough to defy gods. The cursed entity hovered at the center, surrounded from every side by replicated relic swords, spears, and shields, all gleaming with holy light. Gasps erupted. Names like Aegis, Gungnir, and Excalibur were recognized. Vil declared it over, confident in his overwhelming arsenal. But the enemy refused defeat. With a final outburst, tendrils erupted from below, aiming to drag Vil down. Unfazed, Vil unleashed his relics. Holy power tore through the tendrils, silencing the scream of the cursed foe. Even beneath the ground, Vil's forgeries emerged, appearing just long enough to strike before vanishing. A storm of sacred replicas launched toward the cursed being. It flinched, realizing resistance was futile. As the final blow landed, the creature screamed in defeat. With one last threat, it vanished in a blast. Vil stood unharmed. Although Vil's mana had already begun to return, he declined assistance and urged the others to help each other instead. Their argument quickly dissolved into unified concern. All three surrounded Vil, firmly insisting he focus on resting, unwilling to let him push himself any further. Taken aback by the sudden teamwork, Vil watched as their hands moved in sync. Moments ago they had argued, now they cared for him without hesitation. Entering with grace, Queen Artemis approached. She called for a full examination, naming Vil the Empire's prized figure. A voice from nearby challenged her claim, questioning when Vil had ever become part of her realm. Accusations stirred the room as a woman firmly stated that Vil belonged to the kingdom, not the Empire. Struggling to hide her feelings, she tried to mask her reaction. Though she offered composed words, her thoughts swirled with uncertainty about Vil's rising status. Vil, with a gentle look, reassured her. His quiet vow to always look after Caroline caught her completely off guard. Heat surged through her face. The words overwhelmed her, sending her emotions spiraling in every direction. Without warning, she dashed from the room, leaving behind a trail of steam. Vil sat puzzled, wondering if his simple promise had meant more than he realized. Queen Artemis praised Vil, calling him their most revered hero. After saving the empire from disaster, she couldn't bear to let him go unnoticed. A warrior beside her emphasized the threat they faced, stating the empire would have fallen without his intervention. Both women offered sincere gratitude. While Artemis remained dignified, the other bowed deeply, showing heartfelt respect. Vil gave a modest smile. He denied having done anything worthy of praise, insisting his actions weren't special. Downplaying the victory, Vil explained that his skills just happened to counter Tsukumogami's. In his view, it was luck. Vil brushed off the praise again, insisting it was the sacred relic, not his own strength, that brought victory. His humility drew chuckles from the others. Even the queen couldn't help but agree Vil's mindset was truly unlike anyone they'd known. Elsewhere, chaos erupted. A woman was thrown out violently, landing hard on the wooden floor as the door slammed shut behind her. Desperation filled her voice as she begged outside the shop. With nowhere else to turn, she pleaded for someone to visit the Hassan Company. A newspaper headline revealed the truth: Hassan Company teetered on the edge of bankruptcy. Their future looked bleak, without urgent help. Stern woman rejected the plea coldly. She slammed the door shut, condemning the Hassan Company as a business built on deception. Left alone in the street, the woman collapsed in defeat. With no smiths to forge and no buyers remaining, all hope seemed lost. Tears welled in her eyes, but her resolve returned. Rising from the ground, she decided there was still one person she could turn to. The streets bustled with life as she hurried through the city, weaving past unaware crowds, her destination firmly in mind. In the heart of the market stood a powerful figure, his presence commanding attention. Sparks flickered as he gripped a mysterious weapon. With a sinister grin, the man chuckled to himself. His cursed hand pulsed with energy as he declared the market full of eager customers. Shouting with wild enthusiasm, he praised his wares, boasting their value was enough to die for. Two of them, intrigued by the commotion, decided to approach. The man welcomed them eagerly, claiming today would be their lucky day. He dramatically unveiled a collection of extravagant weapons. Blades, guns, and enchanted gear glistened under the light. Gasps followed. Among the items were legendary relics: Excalibur, Fabulg, Levitine, and Aegis, all displayed in one place. With manic energy, the vendor proclaimed each legendary weapon available for just 1,000 gold pieces, eyes gleaming with greed. He turned to his partner, promising unimaginable riches. Doubts rose among the buyers. Some questioned the origins of the items he flaunted so confidently. To prove the weapon's power, a customer stepped forward. Despite limited magical skill, he prepared a spell and readied the blade for a test. The weapon struck the crystal with force, cracking the surface. A moment of silence followed as everyone held their breath. Suddenly, the crystal shattered violently. Watching with eerie satisfaction, the vendor's sinister grin returned, reveling in the chaos he'd sparked. The crowd surged forward, shouting over each other. Everyone clamored to grab a legendary weapon, captivated by their supposed power and price. With a sly grin, the vendor prepared to seal a sale. Just as Excalibur was about to be exchanged, someone shouted, halting the moment, holding the sword high. The buyer revealed damage along its edge. She declared it a fake and refused to pay a single coin. Confusion spread quickly. Whispers turned into outrage as others noticed their weapons were also chipped after minimal use. She emphasized that true legendary weapons radiated power by touch alone. Cries of total junk echoed as the fake sword shattered. Furious, the crowd accused the vendor of scamming them, shouting that he wasn't a real smith. Sweating and wide-eyed, he tried to defend himself, declaring he was the head blacksmith of the Hassan Company. He insisted even gods would envy his skills. The crowd wasn't convinced. Rumors about Hassan's bankruptcy surfaced, and voices demanded a boycott. Accusations of fraud erupted from all directions. As tension spiked, the vendor clenched something tightly. A magical reaction exploded in his grasp, blinding and loud, roaring with desperation. He held his weapon high, surging with energy. He screamed that his talent was undeniable. The woman stormed in, furious, shouting at Sechin for his reckless behavior. She couldn't believe he was still clinging to such desperation. Sechin defended himself, claiming everything he did was to save the company. She ignored his outburst and insisted there was only one solution left. Holding up a newspaper, she revealed the headline featuring Vil. Their only hope now was to find him and make things right by apologizing. Lashed out and kicked her across the room. Her desperate cry fell on deaf ears as he snapped. Face twisted in fury, he screamed curses, refusing to acknowledge Vil as anything but a threat to his pride. Sechin exploded with rage, denouncing Vil, legendary weapons, and everything associated with him. He screamed that he'd rather die than offer any apology. Siracle arrived, confronting him face to face. While Sechin barked insults, she stood her ground, refusing to back down. With wild eyes, Sechin hurled a bowl in fury. But the tension broke when Siracle's words landed heavier, calling him a disappointment. Her voice echoed with finality. Surrounded by imagined figures of judgment, she declared him talentless and stripped of any remaining respect. Stunned, Sechin watched as she walked away. Panic set in. He begged her to stop, afraid of being left completely alone. Siracle walked away with firm resolve, ordering Sechin to stay behind. Her voice was final. She would face Vil and apologize alone. Glancing back briefly, she held back tears. Her decision wasn't easy, but it was the right one. Sechin collapsed to the ground, screaming her name. Thoughts of worthlessness consumed him. Talent, skill, power he had none, and the world rejected him for it. His cursed arm erupted violently as he lost control. Agony twisted his body, and the mutation deepened. With madness in his eyes, he welcomed chaos. Shouts rang out nearby as frightened onlookers called for guards, sensing something had gone terribly wrong. Sechin's mind snapped completely. With a twisted grin, he declared his intent to steal the talent and strength of others. A steam locomotive chugged across a high stone bridge, cutting through the vast mountains. Inside the train, passengers sat in silence. A hooded figure rested near a window, while a girl with glasses sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap. Her expression was troubled as she whispered a name in her thoughts. Something lingered in her heart: regret, or perhaps a longing tied to someone named Vilnairby. A young girl cried out, holding up a broken doll. The head had detached, the dress torn. Her mother examined the damage, sighing at the lack of any tools to fix it. Without hesitation, the hooded man stood up. Calmly, he approached the girl, extending his hand. With a steady motion, the man placed his glowing hand over the broken doll. The doll, once damaged, now looked as if it had never been broken. The girl watched in awe, while the woman in glasses stared at his hand, visibly shaken by its familiar appearance. Amazement filled the passengers. The child clutched the restored doll, thanking him eagerly. Her mother offered gratitude, but the man brushed it off with modesty. He turned away with a soft smile, admitting he could never ignore someone in misfortune. It was simply part of who he was. Curiosity overcame the woman in glasses. She asked if he was the renowned blacksmith. Recognizing the craftsmanship of his golden hand, a memory surfaced in her mind. Vil's right hand once held a unique power. She stared at the stranger's hand, wondering if he shared the same ability. Standing before him, she hesitated, but apologized for the sudden request. Her tone was serious, her posture respectful. With resolve, she offered him a place in her merchant guild, asking if he would work under her banner. He tilted his head and smiled, casually recalling the rumors that her guild had been plagued with misfortune recently. Turning away, he declined with a soft apology, expressing no intent to join any organization no matter the offer. The cloaked man spoke softly, revealing he was on a journey, not of escape, but to create something meaningful. His words carried weight and purpose. Moved by his presence, the woman murmured how much he resembled Vil. She apologized, admitting her worries stemmed from carrying a child and lacking options. He paused, intrigued. To him, children were fascinating creations among the most profound things humans could bring into the world. Reaching into his cloak, he extended a hand, offering her a small wrapped object as a gift. It was candy. He told her it would ease her spirit because he could never walk past someone in distress. She accepted the candy with hesitation, then placed it in her mouth. The sweet taste surprised her, and for a moment, she grew quiet. Suddenly, a vision opened before her eyes, a bright, dreamlike field of flowers swaying under a vivid sky. Joy welled up inside her. The burden she'd carried seemed to lift. Her eyes sparkled with warmth, feeling truly happy for the first time in a while. As the illusion faded, the man stood. He calmly informed her he would be getting off at the next stop. A concerned passenger questioned his early departure, but he reassured them with a smile, thanking them for their kindness before walking away. With a gentle tone, the man reminded the little girl to treasure her doll. His eyes peeked from beneath the cloak, warm and sincere. He waved goodbye as he exited the train. The girl and the others responded with cheerful farewells, noting how kind he was. Suddenly, a loud screech broke the peace. The girl with glasses, now standing alone, looked back in shock as the wind tore through the carriage. The train's engine slammed violently into the ground. Metal crumpled, and steam burst into the air with explosive force. Carriages twisted and shattered across the tracks. Wheels scattered. Flames erupted. Disaster had struck moments after the stranger's departure. Chaos engulfed the wreckage. Survivors stumbled through the debris, trying to help each other as wooden beams and shattered steel collapsed around them. From a distance, a dark figure approached the burning remains. Bodies lay motionless, smoke thick in the air. A sinister smile curled beneath the hood. He whispered of a tragedy crafted by his own hand, one born from the curse of Shichifukujin. Suddenly, a burst of wind scattered the smoke. A great bird-like dragon soared above, its wings cutting through the sky. Upon the dragon's back stood the boy, his eyes wide in disbelief. Before him unfolded a scene that demanded action and retribution. The boy looked down upon the devastation. The wreckage stretched across the land, broken cars buried under clouds of smoke and ash. A grim expression formed as he took in the scene. The destruction was worse than he had imagined. One of his companions asked if they should wait for the Imperial Rescue Squad to arrive. They discussed evacuating the injured first. Another voice interrupted, warning that delays could cost lives. They couldn't afford to hesitate in a situation like this. With resolve, the boy activated his golden hand. Light surged from his arm as he prepared to act swiftly and save lives. Dozens of magical circles appeared over the wreckage, each one glowing as they hovered above the fallen train cars. Each glyph locked onto a victim. They identified internal bleeding, head trauma, heart failure, even a pregnant woman among the injured. With his eyes shut tight, the boy analyzed all the data. Within moments, he fully grasped the extent of the casualties. With determination, he plunged his golden hand into the array. Energy surged, and the restoration magic ignited in full force. Pieces of debris lifted into the air under his control. The shattered remains began to realign and rebuild in midair. Those once lifeless began to stir. Bodies shifted, wounds closed, and shallow breaths returned. The dead were pulled back from the brink. Moments later, the train once wrecked stood whole again on the tracks. Its polished frame gleamed as if untouched by tragedy. A cat-eared girl leapt onto Vil, hugging him tightly. Her voice beamed with joy, praising him for restoring everything in a single sweep. He smiled humbly, suggesting his level might have increased, but said the true reward was seeing everyone smile again. Then, someone called out his name urgently. A new problem was about to begin. From the ground below, a girl gazed up at the descending dragon. Her eyes widened as it carried familiar figures through the sky. Vil and the woman with glasses stared in disbelief. The girl approaching was someone they hadn't expected to see. Her name fell from their lips in shock. She dropped to her knees and bowed deeply, her voice trembling as she apologized over and over. Emotion overwhelmed her. Tears streamed down the woman's cheeks. She whispered the girl's name again, shaken by the sudden reunion. Without judgment, Vil stepped forward and extended his hand, silently inviting her to stand again. With tears still in her eyes, the woman stated that all passengers would need thorough checkups at the Imperial Hospital. Calm yet firm, ordered that Shirikal be transported first due to her pregnancy. His priority was clear. Suddenly the woman dropped to her knees in front of him. She confessed her mistake, the weight of her guilt too much to contain. She continued apologizing as her body collapsed forward. Vil stood frozen, unsure how to respond to the sight of her breaking down. As the evacuation began, Vil instructed the team to prioritize women and children, ensuring the others waited for the next rescue wave. Vil stood silently, watching the dragon depart into the sky. A calm expression masked the weight of everything that had happened. Turning to the restored train, he muttered a thought to himself. The surface was pristine, but something about it still felt wrong. Examining the wheels, he noticed no physical tampering. The tracks were clear. There had been no natural reason for the derailment. He stepped inside one of the carriages. His companion followed, concerned by his sudden change in demeanor. Inside, the air was thick with residue. Vil narrowed his eyes. Something or someone had left behind magical traces. Vil asked his companion if she could see the black haze lingering in the train. She looked confused. There was nothing visible to her, realizing he was the only one who could see it. Vil followed the trail of dark energy as it extended outward from the carriage. The ominous mist reached far across the landscape. Images of the wounded flickered in his mind, stirring unease within him. He suddenly remembered the doll, the one he had repaired. Now it lay still again, strangely unsettling, as if cursed. Without hesitation, Vil launched into motion. He ordered his companion to return to the capital immediately. Through a swirl of teleportation energy, Vil stepped out, carrying the unconscious fox-eared girl in his arms. Smoke rose in the distance as a large hospital came into view. Signs of disturbance surrounded the entrance, and something ominous seemed to linger beyond the gates. Within moments, the girl recovered and cheerfully stood beside Vil, her strength restored. Upon entering, Vil noticed a strange mist trailing through the halls. Despite its presence, none of the people inside appeared to sense the growing threat. Suddenly, a girl spotted Vil rushing up the stairs and called out his name in surprise. Vil stopped before a sealed door, thick fog curling at his feet. His sharp instincts told him this was the origin point of the disturbance spreading through the hospital. With cautious steps, he pushed the door open. A dense black mist poured out from the room. A faint figure came into view. A young girl sat beside a bed, enveloped in darkness. The girl stood motionless, her eyes blank. A lifeless woman lay beside her. Quietly, the child muttered that her mother had stopped moving. Vil held back, studying the strange object in the girl's hand. His companion tried to approach, but he warned her to stop. A terrifying presence emerged. The doll in the girl's arms transformed, revealing a grotesque face with glowing eyes and twisted hair, pulsing with cursed energy. Recognized the threat. He explained it was a cursed item, similar to the Lion Guardian's curse, known to bring misfortune and corruption to its surroundings. As Vil approached and asked for the doll, the girl clutched it tighter, refusing. Softening his tone, Vil reassured her. He claimed he was a doctor, one who could treat dolls, and understood her worry. With calm determination, he told her the doll was suffering in its current state. Vil promised to heal it, offering hope in place of fear. Vil gently inspected the cursed doll, dismayed at how something cherished by a child had been twisted into a vessel of malice. A powerful magic circle formed beneath the doll, radiating intense energy. The curse resisted, writhing as if alive. With resolve in his eyes, Vil slammed his forging tool into the seal. He shouted his command to break and reconstruct, shattering the magic circle in one decisive blow. As the cursed form crumbled, light engulfed the doll. Its grotesque features melted away, revealing a peaceful, innocent figure reborn from the corruption. Nearby, the girl gasped sharply. The oppressive fog lifted, and her mother's lifeless form began to stir once more. The mother awoke, confused but alive. Her daughter leapt into her arms, crying out in relief. Nearby, Vil held up the restored doll, now shining with pure light. He explained it had been transformed into a blessing, bringing guardian, beaming with joy. The little girl presented the healed doll to her mother, proudly explaining how the kind young man had fixed it. She recalled an earlier encounter on a magical train, where a masked stranger had repaired the doll after its head was damaged. Vil listened silently, his expression darkening. A hooded figure appeared in his mind, someone who tampered with the doll before. Gratitude poured from mother and daughter alike. Both stood amazed that the healing came not from medicine, but through the power of a restored doll. Smiling brightly, the doll winked and offered words of praise, calling her rescuer a true doll doctor. Her elegant form now radiated charm and light. Shock spread through the room. No one expected the doll to speak, especially not the one who had remade her. Fox Girl clapped her hands, praising Vil's brilliance. She admired how he breathed life into something once cursed. From a distance, the bespectacled girl stood frozen, raising the dead and granting life to a doll such power surpassed human limits. Down the corridor, a young boy cried out in amazement. His legs, once lifeless, now moved freely as he ran into his mother's arms. Patients across the hospital experienced miracles. Pain vanished, vision returned, and incurable conditions reversed. No words escaped her lips, but the girl in glasses stared, stunned. Quiet awe filled the space where logic failed her. Whispers grew bolder in her heart. She didn't just admire Vil's abilities, she desired him. Laughter echoed nearby. Surrounded by cheer and praise, he turned at the sound of his name, unaware of the quiet obsession forming behind him. A's trembling with honesty, she finally confessed what she had never managed to say. She had been searching for him all along. Vil didn't slow his steps. Without turning, he apologized curtly. He had no time for sentiment. Desperation poured out as she bowed her head, admitting her mistake. Since his departure, business had collapsed and her partner's skills failed to sustain the guild. She extended a hand with hope, pleading for him to return not just for business, but to stand beside her once more. Only silence followed. Then came his answer, short, cold, and final. He refused, feigning confusion. She questioned his anger, her tone light but her eyes sharp behind the lenses. Her smile twisted as she acknowledged betrayal. She claimed love, yet admitted he had every right to be furious. The fox-eared girl stepped forward, slamming her foot and shouting. Enough was enough, this woman had overstepped. Fury erupted. She lashed out, scolding the woman for daring to return after abandoning Vil. Her loyalty wasn't something to mock. Rising to her own defense, the woman shouted back. She claimed to owe Vil her life and refused to let someone from another guild take him away. She stared ahead, voice calm but resolute. No one, she claimed, understood him better than she did, scoffing. She accused him of betrayal, twisting the situation to suggest he was the one who had moved on. Outrage surged. The fox girl reminded her sharply that it was she who first turned her back on Vil. That choice had consequences. No longer able to stay silent. The fox girl declared Vil had greater things to do. Wasting time on someone like her wasn't one of them. She dropped to her knees, pleading with tears and fists against the floor, begging him to return before everything was lost. Vil's voice dropped, quiet but firm. He told her the words she dreaded. It was already too late. He reminded her of her own declaration. The downfall of her guild was her burden to fix, not his to carry. A final glance over his shoulder, expression unflinching. From now on, their paths would never cross again. Collapsed on the floor, she whispered apologies to everyone she had wronged. Guilt and regret drowned her pleas. All strength left her as she declared herself worthless. Surrounded by those she once led, she now had no place to stand. Without warning, a massive sphere exploded into the room, violently slamming her into the wall. Dust and energy erupted from the impact. Lying crushed beneath the mysterious orb, she cried out in agony. Confusion spread among the others as they rushed forward in alarm. Vil and his companion stepped back. The orb pulsed unnaturally. Something sinister was brewing inside it. It wasn't over yet. Realization struck. Vil questioned her, demanding if she had made contact with the man wrapped in cloth. Her response was weak and incoherent. Whatever she had touched, it was cursed. Vil clenched his fist. This was the work of that man again. A cursed seal activated beneath the orb, pulsing with ancient glyphs. Something inside stirred, responding to the dark energy. Liquid and steam burst outward as the mass violently swelled. The form inside twisted, reshaping itself as tendrils of fluid lashed out. Moments later, a grotesque, bloated creature emerged. Its body dripped with slime, barely stable, its breath heavy and unnatural. Suddenly the form collapsed into a wet thud, revealing a malformed infant-like figure writhing on the ground. Before they could react, the creature mutated further, its head enlarged grotesquely, mouth gaping open in a monstrous wail as it towered before them. Chaos erupts as a grotesque creature lunges into the room, endangering everyone nearby. Vil quickly steps in, pulling a frightened woman and child out of harm's way. Without hesitation, a beastman dashes forward and lands a crushing kick, hurling the monster to the ground. He points the civilians toward safety and instructs others to summon help. The urgency in his voice spurs them into motion. As the dust begins to settle, both fighters brace themselves. A mysterious silhouette rises from the wreckage ahead. Sprawled on the floor, a masked woman clutches her abdomen in shock, confused. She mutters about a child that shouldn't exist. The grotesque baby-like creature crawls forward, its body dripping and misshapen, eyes locked on the people nearby. Rising to its full size, the abomination stretches out an arm toward the shocked woman, prompting Vil and his companion to rush inside. Its expression twists unnaturally as its skin pulsates, and its mouth contorts. A strange reaction begins to take over. A loud, distorted cry erupts from the creature's mouth, forming a wave of pressure that forces everyone to cover their ears. Vil grits his teeth, realizing the creature has triggered a sound-based magic, just as a glass object nearby shatters violently, despite no chanting. The infant's cries unleash intense magical force, pressing down on everyone nearby. Vil realizes the power isn't ordinary. Covering one ear, he theorizes that a curse placed by the masked man is causing the child's magic to spiral out of control. The mother begins to understand the candy she ate might have triggered the transformation. Vil grits his teeth. Even if the parent is guilty, he believes the child holds no fault in this tragedy. Staring at the distressed woman, he declares that she is the only one who can calm the child. Tears streamed down the mutated child's face as it cried out for its mother. Vil quietly repeated that the child was innocent. Slowly, the woman began to move, her legs trembling as she crawled closer to the crying creature. Reaching the child's side, she froze in hesitation. The creature clung to her, sobbing, as its oversized hands gripped her clothes. With a hand on its head, she offered a silent apology, accepting the creature as her own. The child's cries gradually softened. From a distance, Vil and his companions watched in silence, expressions calm as the chaos finally subsided. A group of adventurers bursts into the room, misjudging the situation. One of them shouts, mistaking the child for a monster. Acting on instinct, the party unleashes a coordinated magical assault, hurling flames and energy blasts toward the perceived threat. Vil reacts instantly, generating a powerful barrier to intercept the incoming attacks. The beastman stands ready behind him, the shield holds, deflecting the spells before they strike the weeping child. The creature stares in shock, clutching its hands. Within the chaos, the mother steps forward, her body burning with magical backlash as she tries to protect her child. A devastating magical blast engulfs the mother, tearing through her defenses, and sending her body flying in a burst of energy. Vil and the beastman look on in shock as her figure is consumed by flames, her sacrifice leaving behind only scorched air. Child's eyes widen in horror. Clutching her remains, he trembles, then begins to burn from within. As grief turns to rage, the attacking adventurers freeze, their faces pale as they realize the true weight of their actions. Suddenly, the child's form mutates further, swelling with unstable energy. A monstrous transformation begins before everyone's eyes. A shockwave erupts from the transformed child, forcing Vil and his allies to shield themselves from the intense burst of energy. The building shakes violently as the unleashed magic spreads outward in chaotic pulses, carving rings of force into the surroundings. Explosive power radiates upward, shattering everything in its path. The ceiling begins to collapse under the pressure. A magical seal activates nearby, triggering a mechanism. Twin pillars rise as a hammer descends with a deafening impact. When the light clears, the child lies motionless. Vil steps forward cautiously, while the others look on in stunned silence. Flames quietly flicker around his body as he stands, hammer in hand, radiating silent fury. Confusion spreads among the others as they realize everything has reverted to normal. Eyes blazing, he explodes with anger, demanding to know what they were thinking attacking a helpless child. Startled by the outburst, the group stumbles back in fear. Without a word, he and his companion walk past them, ignoring their rushed apologies. From the floor, the woman groans, struggling to sit up. Pain lingers, but so does awareness of who helped her. Crawling forward, a smiling baby reaches for her, eyes sparkling with recognition. Joy softens her expression, hands trembling. She stares in disbelief at the child, now fully human. Warmth floods her eyes as relief sets in. Smiling brightly, the baby seems peaceful, no trace of the monstrous form remains. Confidence shines in Vil's calm gaze, as he notes the magic is now dormant. Behind them, her voice calls out, asking him to wait. He continues walking, steps steady, beside his companion. Tears held back, she thanks him with a gentle smile for protecting her child from beginning to end. Without turning, he responds softly, "It wasn't done for her." Softly, she apologizes for her past mistakes. Gratitude fills her voice as she watches him walk away in silence. Cradling her child, she speaks gently about going home where loved ones wait. The baby giggles, unaware of the chaos that had passed. Elsewhere, in a quiet prison beneath the capital, guards escort someone through stone halls toward a cell. A heavy lock clicks shut. Slumped on the cold floor, a woman listens as the guard warns her to stay put until bail is paid. From the next cell, a wild-haired man mutters to himself, claiming talent, ignoring the scoffs of a hardened inmate nearby. Dark robes rustle as a mysterious figure approaches, speaking with quiet pity. No one, he says, notices the effort of the desperate twisted by envy and frustration. The prisoner lashes out, screaming for power and talent that was never his. Arms flail as he demands even stronger items. The hooded man reminds him that everything possible has already been given. Images of those he resents swirl in his mind. Rage boils over as he vows to steal everything from those who mocked him. A monstrous arm bursts from his side. Screams echo through the cell block as panic spreads among the prisoners. Stone explodes outward from the prison wall, sending debris and smoke into the sky. Civilians freeze mid-step as chaos erupts. From the rubble, a monstrous figure launches skyward, now wielding brutal weapons with twisted arms. Below, he shouts his goal to steal everyone's hands. Far above the city, the cloaked figure floats, watching gleefully. He prepares to witness the destruction unfold with satisfaction. Panic spreads through the streets. Citizens scream and scatter as buildings tremble under incoming shockwaves. Adventurers regroup. One of them recognizes the attacker, an unstable fraud, once dismissed. With a shout, they move to intercept him mid-air. Weapons and spells clash in mid-air as multiple adventurers launch a counterattack. Surprise flashes across the enemy's face as they break formation. He retaliates violently, one after another. Attackers are flung to the ground. Cries erupt, skills vanish, arms limp and useless. Hovering above, he laughs maniacally. The arms of his victims hang bound to grotesque clouds, stolen and absorbed. Simone Nu drops into the fray from above. Her blade gleams as momentum whips her cloak forward. Steel arcs clean through the corrupted mass. Her presence cuts through the madness like a cold wind. Confusion crosses his face. One of his monstrous arms suddenly drops to the ground, severed and motionless. Eyes narrow. The woman steps forward with resolve. As an S-rank guild master, protecting this city is her duty. Something pierces her shoulder. She looks down, stunned, as blood begins to spill. In a flash, the enemy's corrupted mass latches onto her arm. Resistance fades as she's overwhelmed by its grip. Grinning wickedly, he claims her strength as his own. Her stolen arm twists into another weapon under his growing monstrosity. A peaceful town rests deep within the mountains, unaware of the ruins nearby where something tragic unfolds. Amid the shattered stone and rubble, a faint cry rises. Close by, a woman stumbles across a child trapped beneath collapsed rocks. Desperately, she stretches out her hand, her urgency growing with each second. Without warning, a monstrous figure emerges, its twisted body towering above them. Covered in grotesque growths, it steps forward with unsettling confidence. The woman raises her blade in defense, positioning herself between the child and the beast. The creature jeers, unfazed by her resistance. In a violent display of power, it strikes the ground, unleashing a massive impact that shatters earth and air alike. The monster stared in confusion at the massive crater it had just created. Its triumphant grin faded as it sensed something had gone wrong. A strange energy swirled in the air as a lone figure stepped through the smoke. The blacksmith had arrived, his presence calm yet commanding. Kneeling beside the rescued girl, he offered reassurance. Her wounds were healed, and safety was finally within reach. The monster roared in rage, its face contorted with hatred. It screamed the blacksmith's name, unleashing its fury. Calmly observing the destruction, the man confirmed the truth. Everything that happened here was the creature's doing. There would be no mercy. Surrounded by scorched earth, the monster reveled in its destruction, declaring the scene before it as its greatest creation. Its grin widened as it mocked Vil, no longer viewing him as a powerless younger brother, but as prey beneath notice. Vil calmly activated his enchanted gauntlet, the Golden Hand, prepared to fulfill his duty not just to stop the threat, but to make the monster atone. With divine force channeled through his weapon, he charged, deflecting the massive spiked arm hurled toward him with unshaken resolve. Closing the distance at high speed, Vil gripped his hammer tightly, aiming straight for the corrupted heart of his former kin. Vil leapt forward with force, but the creature's spiked tail lunged and struck first, sending him crashing down midair. Landing hard, he quickly regained his footing, his determination burning stronger, despite the blow he'd just taken. Looking down, he noticed a strange mark burning into his hand, a circular wound, pulsing ominously with dark energy. Across the field, the monster laughed with twisted joy, its body twitching as it absorbed energy from the cursed emblem embedded in its flesh. Realization dawned. Vil recognized the curse. It was a stolen skill enhancement, a dark spell that fed off others' power. The monster cackled triumphantly as a glowing mark spread across its chest. It claimed ownership of the legendary Golden Hand, now stolen from Vil. Kneeling in silence, Vil muttered the name Sechin, realizing the cursed item's influence had taken root in his opponent. He stared ahead, acknowledging the truth. The monster had become a host to a wrathful spirit bound to a cursed artifact, feeding on ambition and hatred. Without hesitation, the beast lunged forward. Earth exploded under the impact, forcing Vil back with overwhelming force. Mocking laughter filled the battlefield. The creature demanded why Vil, so proud of his golden arm, refused to strike back. As Vil knelt, the monster taunted him, pretending to understand what power he truly sought to unleash. In response, Vil activated his hidden arsenal. Towering metallic constructs rose from the ground, mystical boxes containing forgotten relics. Expression firm, he declared his resolve. The enemy would perish, not by borrowed strength, but by Vil's own hands. But the monster struck first, conjuring a wave of explosive replicas, each blast aiming to erase Vil in a single strike. Smoke and dust filled the battlefield. The creature watched, silent and tense, awaiting confirmation of his enemy's demise. The monster roared in frustration, demanding why he couldn't summon divine weapons like Vil. But Vil calmly revealed the truth. it was because the creature never understood how creation truly worked. Holding his scarred hand up, Vil clarified that having a skill and mastering it were two very different things. Infuriated, the creature shouted in denial. Deep down, it realized it only ever possessed the skill, never earned it. Vil's voice was firm. Without proper use, even stolen power is meaningless, nothing more than wasted treasure in unworthy hands. Screaming in rage, the monster rejected his words, declaring destruction the only answer to everything. Vil stepped forward, warning Sechin to stop before it was too late. His voice was steady, but the ground trembled. The monster ignored him and summoned overwhelming power, unleashing his ultimate attack without hesitation or control. Suddenly, panic struck. The beast's expression twisted as he realized he couldn't rein in the chaos he had triggered. Explosions erupted without end, tearing through the earth as energy spiraled wildly, threatening both sides of the battlefield. Amid the destruction, the creature screamed in fear and confusion, unable to comprehend the power slipping from his grasp. He warned him again the energy of the destruction skill was massive. Uncontrolled output would lead to death. The ground quaked beneath them, but Sechin snarled in defiance, refusing to lose. Even if it killed him, he would not bow to Vil. Driven by hatred, the monster launched a desperate attack, unleashing a violent beam of energy meant to obliterate everything in its path. Braced for impact, but his expression shifted as multiple forces intercepted the strike from above. Reinforcements arrived. Warriors descended through the debris, surrounding Vil with timely strength and powerful presence. Surprised, Vil turned toward the newcomers. He didn't recognize the powerful presence that had just intervened. Standing before him were three formidable women, with a massive dragon looming behind them. Their arrival turned the tide. One of them rushed to Vil in tears, overwhelmed with relief. She scolded him gently, while he reassured her with a smile. With unwavering eyes, the wolf-eared warrior declared they owed their lives to Vil. Now, it was their turn to repay that debt. Vil bowed his head with gratitude, and asked them to buy him time. The real fight was about to begin. The three warriors pledged themselves to Vil without hesitation, vowing to protect him even at the cost of their lives. With a battle cry, they charged forward. Vil remained behind, entrusting them with the front lines as the monster towered ahead. Magic and steel clashed against darkness. Explosions lit the battlefield as the trio launched their coordinated assault. Together, they unleashed powerful elemental attacks, ice rising like mountains, blades flying with precision, and whips crackling with thunderous energy. In perfect formation, the women struck as one, under the constellations above, their synchronized strike carved through the chaos. Even without the golden hand, there was still one thing to rely on: his grandfather's hammer, passed down with purpose. As a child, he counted the skills he had acquired: enhancement, reforging, full restoration, destruction, and infinite replication. But those weren't truly his. They belonged to others, fragments from generations bound to the artifact's lineage, memories returned of simpler days at the forge. His grandfather's skill had been reforging, a talent mastered through patience and resolve. A firm hand on his head reminded him his own skill was different, rare, unnamed. And it was still growing. He remembered the words from his grandfather: his true skill would awaken once his mastery reached its peak. That moment had come. With hammer in hand, he invoked the art of reforging. Energy surged through his body as power responded to his will. Even without the legendary hand, his right arm held the experience of countless creations. Knowledge carved into every motion guided him. Years of inherited technique flowed through him. His command over the reforging skill, once his grandfather's, now fully ignited. From nothing, a divine weapon began to take shape, an artifact, born not of inheritance, but of his own forged destiny. From the rubble, Vil's damaged arm re-emerges, its center pierced and glowing with power. Though several skills have been stolen from him, Vil remains calm. He approaches his dragon ally, requesting a scale for a purpose only he understands. With focused resolve, Vil grips his weapon tightly. His innate crafting skill remains untouched, a power no one can take away from him. Three warriors stand at the ready. Before them lies a battlefield of scattered corpses and a tension that has yet to break. A monstrous figure mocks them, claiming borrowed strength is useless. The enemy underestimates what Vil can truly forge alone. Just as the trio prepares to strike, grotesque tentacles lash out from the ground, catching them off guard. Two of the women are struck, and chaos erupts. The monster howls, as the power of the sacred sword suddenly fades. Shock floods its face while energy erupts violently around it. Vil channels raw power through his cracked arm. Holding a glowing scale, he senses a surge within this time, he's ready to create something new. Memories of the lives he's touched flash in his mind, every face, every smile all forged through his right hand. Twin dragons descend, summoned by his craft. Their explosive charge turns the tide of battle once again. Without hesitation, the fox-eared warrior steps forward, fiercely determined to shield Vil from harm as the others regroup behind her. Their eyes widen in fear as a colossal dragon emerges, overwhelming the battlefield with its sheer presence. The call for Vil grows desperate. Standing atop his sacred forge, Vil raises his arm. A divine command echoes to forge a weapon worthy of the heavens. A brutal counterattack flings the defenders aside. The enemy, unrelenting, proclaims his intent to seize everything. From the sky, Vil descends with divine fury. With a blinding strike, he drives a massive hammer into the earth, shattering the battlefield. From the divine forge, a radiant blade bursts into the sky, the holy sword of light, crafted by Vil's own hand. He gazes upon it with quiet pride. The monstrous foe reels in disbelief. The sight of the holy sword strikes panic, its very existence shaking his confidence. Vil raises the sword high as lightning arcs around him. Energy surges through the weapon, illuminating the battlefield. Enemy roars in denial, claiming a human cannot forge a sacred relic, yet Vil stands firm, blade in hand, defying the impossible. His allies rally beside him. Dragons soar, weapons are drawn, and the final battle begins with Vil leading them forward. Relief spreads as the girls confirm their wounds are healed. Vil's miraculous power even restored what was once lost. Holding the holy sword, Vil unleashes its divine ability, a power that negates all destruction, undoing the chaos wrought by the enemy. But the monstrous foe retaliates in panic, launching a devastating attack that threatens to consume everything in its path. Leaping into the sky, Vil gathers light around his blade. His eyes remain steady as he prepares a final blow, channeling sacred energy. In one mighty strike, he tears through the darkness, severing the enemy's power with overwhelming force. A massive burst of energy explodes across the sky as Vil's final strike collides with the enemy's core, scattering darkness in all directions. The earth trembles as holy light rains down, piercing through the chaos, cleansing everything tainted by the enemy's power. Engulfed by the radiant force, the corrupted figure disintegrates completely, unable to resist the purifying judgment unleashed by Vil. Hovering above the peaceful capital, Vil looks down at the restored city. His grip tightens around the hilt, the divine mark on his hand still glowing. Far below, people begin to realize what's happened. Limbs are healed, lives are restored, a miracle, born from a blacksmith's will. Crowds gather near the fallen beast, confused by the calm after the storm. Eyes search for answers in the silence that follows Vil's strike. Among the group, AIs recognizes the power Vil used. The name spoken sends ripples through the air, a technique thought long lost. She explains it was once wielded by Lawrence, a legendary hero who defended the world from divine evil. Still hovering, Vil's blade glows faintly. The eighth holy sword he forged holds the power to restore all a feat no mortal should manage. With a quiet farewell, he releases the sacred sword from his hand, letting it vanish into the light. Mission fulfilled. Vil releases the last fragments of the holy sword into the air. Its duty complete, it dissolves into light as he offers a quiet farewell. When asked if the sword was broken, Vil reassures them it merely returned to rest, its power, too immense to remain in the world forever. As tension rises again, one of Vil's companions steps forward, reminding the others of his mercy. A humbled blacksmith speaks up, confessing he once misunderstood Vil's brilliance. Even without divine tools, he admits Vil's skill reaches godlike heights. True strength, he realizes, lies not in the forge, but in the soul guiding it. Kneeling and trembling, the young man breaks down in tears. He admits Vil had always been greater, not just in skill, but in spirit. Rather than scold, he grants forgiveness with a touch of humor, lifting the tension and offering his hand in peace. Elsewhere, a woman watches over a child in her arms. In a prison-like chamber, someone chained stands, silently beneath a looming cross. She confronts the prisoner, a man she knows all too well. The name Shirako leaves her lips as she demands answers. Lowering his head, he admits his mistakes. At last, the words "I'm sorry" reach her, not in defiance, but in truth. Chained to the wall, the man declares he'll shoulder the blame alone. He refuses to let the woman or child suffer for his choices. Tears brimming. She explodes in anger. His words come too late. Her cries pierce through guilt and echo with pain. Cradling their child, she weeps. As guards approach, a regal woman in a black gown announces the time has come, judgment is near. The princess delivers her verdict. His crimes are grave, and punishment will be absolute. As the gates open, light floods the room. The outside world awaits a future reshaped by Vil's legacy. Sound of broken chains echoes as the shackles fall from his ankles. Confusion washes over both prisoners as they realize their punishment has shifted. A wagon is presented to them. The command is clear: leave the kingdom behind and never return. Still stunned, he asks if this isn't an execution. A knight calmly responds they are simply following orders. From afar, the princess reflects on Vil's mercy. His choice changed fate, sparing lives that would have otherwise been lost. Together, the small family rides into the horizon, grateful. They know this future was only possible because of Vil. With confidence in his stance and hammer at his side, Vil declares himself a creator, no longer just a blacksmith, but one who shapes destinies. Despite all he endured, he remains kind. When praised, he simply says it was right the girl was his kin, and saving her was natural. With a smile, Vil turns to his allies. The journey, he says, is only just beginning, and there is still much to do. His companion wonders if their mission is already complete. Vil replies the divine weapon isn't finished. Looking back with a grin, he states, there's still so much more he wants to create. As Vil and his companion head toward the gates, someone watches from a distant tower. A woman recognizes them and prepares to approach. She walks forward, speaking as if destiny has finally aligned. Vil, she believes, is the one capable of fulfilling her long-awaited wish. Her goal is clear: she seeks the completion of the Hakusei. Panic surged as the beastman couple dashed through the cave, the father's arms wrapped tightly around their daughter. Upon reaching a narrow gap between rocks, the parents quickly hid the girl. The mother urged her to stay put, while the child, confused and afraid, asked about their fate. They offered no answers, only soft smiles beneath sweat-covered faces. Both stared at her, trying to appear calm as the moment pressed on them. Positioning themselves between the danger and their daughter, they braced for a final stand. The child screamed, arms reaching out in desperation, but her parents had already leapt into the fray, their figures vanishing beyond the rock wall's edge. Silence fell after a distant roar echoed through the cavern. Only the girl's trembling hands gripped the stone wall, waiting. A monstrous presence loomed before her hiding spot. Its eyes glowed with malice as it spotted the terrified child. Moments later, she jolted awake in bed, drenched in sweat. The sword on the wall remained still, but the weight of the memory lingered. Across the room, she sat quietly, haunted. Determination returned as she reached for the weapon. With steady steps, she charged into the snowy wilderness. Eyes blazing, she drew her blade, its fiery aura flaring to life. This time, she wouldn't run. Heat radiated from the enchanted blade as it pulsed with energy. Her grip tightened, steady despite the weight of power surging through it. With a swift swing, she unleashed a torrent of black flame into the sky. The arc blazed forward, splitting clouds and bending the air. From afar, a fortress stood against the mountain range. Smoke trails led to its gates. Her path was set. Reflections of the past flickered in her mind, a woman's gaze, a weapon clashing in light, and a smirk that stirred unease. A majestic figure descended, surrounded by wings of divine fire. The warrior's presence brought both awe and challenge. Her next trial had arrived. Cheerful winged girl descended from the sky, her presence light but commanding, standing face to face. The two girls exchanged words. One held her blade with focus, while the other explained the sword's hidden power, its ability to draw in darkness itself. A new figure stepped forward, demonstrating a dark technique with overwhelming force. Doubt lingered in her mind. She admitted her strength was lacking and vowed to grow stronger, holding tightly to the hilt of her sword. From a distance, a young man approached with a smile. After spending weeks inside the workshop, he finally returned ready to show what he had mastered. Despite her effort, she realized she hadn't made it in time. Still, she stood tall, greeting the returning blacksmith with a composed smile. Her eyes narrowed as she stared into the reflection on her blade. A quiet vow formed: she would become stronger, for the sake of confronting the one she resented. Meanwhile, he stretched lazily beneath the morning light, unaware of the tension that still lingered in her chest. With a casual wave, he greeted her warmly. Light shimmered across her leg, revealing a new glowing mark. The others noticed it immediately. The radiant sword-shaped sigil marked her connection to a divine weapon forged by the creator himself. Explained that Lux, still in her infancy, couldn't speak like Yozora. However, she seemed fond of Poro's soft tail, and he asked her to watch over the creature. Smiling confidently, he revealed his plans to nurture the sacred sword of light and create countless new things using divine smithing power. A new journey awaited. The group agreed to entrust the territory to Ruri, who accepted the task with exaggerated enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Poro wondered aloud if she could truly become as strong as the other heroes now wielding two holy swords. Excitement stirred as they departed by carriage. Though the forge had its charm, the world outside held greater adventure. The cart rumbled through the countryside, pulled by a mechanical horse. Its stiff, segmented frame moved with precise rhythmic steps, powered by magic. Inside, Vil explained that the horse was a magical automaton, one of many tools he'd crafted. His companion noted that most automatons were humanoid. Unbothered, Vil simply called it his tireless magic horse cart. She smiled, impressed by his unusual ideas and inventiveness. As the cart continued down the forest path, her ears twitched. A faint noise broke through the steady hum of travel. She stood quickly, weapon ready. From the trees ahead, someone was being attacked, likely by bandits. Vil turned, already preparing to act. Vil declared they would help. Poro looked surprised. He usually didn't explain himself. Her curiosity piqued at his sudden change. From above, a floating cube descended as Vil spoke calmly. If someone was in trouble, helping them was the obvious choice. A revolver emerged from the box. Poro picked it up with wide eyes, confused by its appearance and purpose. Grinning, Vil aimed the weapon. It was a modified model he had created himself, one capable of reversing cause and effect. He fired. The shot landed perfectly. Even from that distance, he hit his mark, leaving Poro stunned by his precision. With a calm smile, Vil announced the job was done. His custom revolver still smoked, having fired multiple shots in rapid succession. Below, the attackers lay unconscious. Every shot had landed perfectly. Poro, stunned, realized none of the targets had been killed. They were only subdued. Vil explained the gun's function. It reversed cause and effect. Targets were hit, not because he aimed, but because they were meant to be hit. Though the concept confused her, Poro praised the weapon's accuracy and design. Her awe was clear. Suddenly, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. Vil rushed forward and caught the collapsing stranger in his arms. The figure, cloaked and weakened, seemed to have been attacked by bandits. Using one of his crafted healing devices, Vil restored the stranger's strength. The woman rose steadily, her wounds fully healed. To their surprise, she revealed her identity: Ragdoll, third princess of the Beastkin Kingdom. Recognizing Vil as the sacred swordsmith, she bowed respectfully. Distressed, Ragdoll begged for his help. Her mother's holy sword was in crisis, and her homeland stood on the brink of ruin. At the word sacred sword, Poro's thoughts turned elsewhere. Another hero, another wielder. A memory or warning stirred within her. Poro blinked, surprised by how quickly he accepted the mission. He gently reassured her. After all, he'd long handled the maintenance of the Beastkin Kingdom's sacred sword. Holding his hammer, Vil spoke with calm conviction. Fixing things was his creed as a craftsman. If the sword broke, the wielder would worry too. Poro echoed his words softly, one heart with the sacred sword. The idea resonated deeply within her. Then, Vil revealed a rare teleportation crystal. With it, they could travel anywhere instantly. Vil explained that he had modified the crystal to allow group teleportation. The others listened, impressed but cautious. With energy and certainty, Vil activated the crystal. The trio was instantly enveloped in light, vanishing toward the Beastkin Kingdom. They landed in dense vegetation. Vil emerged from the bushes, surprised by the wild surroundings. It was different than he remembered. In the distance stood a colossal tree dominating the landscape. The sheer size of it left them speechless. Vil traveled through a dense forest with his companions, moving toward the eastern beastfolk land hidden beyond the mountains and ancient trees. A map revealed the region's peaceful nature, where conflicts rarely occurred and villages thrived with steady rivers and fertile greenery. Elsewhere, a sacred sword emitted unstable light, spreading powerful energy that hinted at an ancient disturbance, threatening the calm land. Vil sensed the weapon's abnormal state and realized its condition differed from any blade he had ever repaired. Later, a mysterious magician arrived at the capital, her presence linked to the growing instability surrounding the sacred sword. A mysterious figure entrusted Vil with maintaining the sacred water sword. Trust in his skill placed a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Soon after, the sword's power surged uncontrollably, flooding the land with violent water. Forests twisted, buildings collapsed, and the kingdom fell into ruin. Vil listened to the truth about the cause behind the disaster. He understood that someone had misused the sacred weapon, turning its purpose toward destruction. Determination filled him as he resolved to save those suffering. He accepted the burden and prepared to repair what had been broken. Guided by clues, Vil set out for the northern capital. Strange coordinates led him through dense forests toward the place where the sacred sword awaited restoration. Through the thick forest, Vil led his companions along a difficult path. Unnatural energy lingered in the air, slowing their movement and making the surroundings feel strange. Before long, a mysterious woman appeared and watched them with quiet confidence. Her calm presence suggested hidden strength beyond ordinary understanding. Growing unease filled the group as Vil studied her carefully. Doubt formed when he sensed something unusual about her arrival in that isolated place. Without warning, a giant mechanical creature burst from the ground and attacked. Tremors spread through the forest as its massive body advanced toward them. Shock crossed their faces while they tried to grasp the situation. The sudden threat forced Vil and his allies to prepare for an unexpected battle. A giant mechanical creature advanced toward Vil and his companions, its spinning blades cutting through trees and earth without slowing. Chunks of wood and stone flew as the machine rampaged across the forest, forcing the group to step back and observe its movement carefully. Instead of panicking, Vil guided his allies forward, studying the enemy's structure while the creature continued its relentless attacks around them. During the advance, Vil understood the sacred sword's power influenced nature itself, causing abnormal growth and uncontrolled destruction in the surroundings. Realization strengthened his resolve as he planned to restore balance, believing the sacred weapon could heal the land once its power returned to proper control. Vil stepped forward and struck the ground, creating a barrier that stopped the machine's attack. His control over the surroundings forced the enemy to halt briefly. Confusion spread when the machine lost balance, crashing into the marshy terrain. Water splashed across the area as the creature struggled to regain control. A warrior from the beast folk suddenly appeared and warned Vil not to advance further. His aggressive stance showed distrust toward the unfamiliar group. Soon, more beast folk arrived, recognizing their leader's return. Realization spread that Vil and his companions had saved their land from destruction. The tribe bowed deeply, expressing gratitude for the help they received. Respect replaced hostility as they acknowledged Vil as their unexpected savior. A massive carnivorous flower descended from above, spreading its sharp petals while targeting Vil's group with deadly intent. Dark energy erupted from the plant, sweeping across the ground in a violent wave that threatened everything in its path. The beastfolk warrior stepped forward, ready to confront the danger, recognizing the monster as a long-awaited threat. As the group prepared to fight, more deadly plants began to rise from the earth, surrounding them inside the forest. Realizing the monsters had grown stronger, Vil understood the sacred sword's influence had spread further, turning nature into a dangerous enemy. The beastfolk warrior launched forward, striking through the attacking plants with powerful movements, cutting down the twisted growth surrounding the group. Vil stopped her advance, sensing a strange presence nearby. The air shifted as an unfamiliar figure appeared behind them, watching calmly. The mysterious woman emerged, her body wet from the spreading water energy, yet her expression remained steady, despite the chaos around her. She turned toward Vil, showing no hostility while standing near the sacred weapon's influence. Her presence felt connected to the spreading power. Vil studied the sword in his hand, realizing its condition had not changed. Understanding the situation, he prepared to restore its balance and stop the spreading danger. A sudden surge of energy burst from the sacred sword, surprising everyone nearby. The unstable power began to calm as Vil stepped closer. With precise control, Vil struck the blade and restored its structure. Light spread across the surface as the weapon returned to its original state. Once stabilized, he sealed the sword's power to prevent further damage. The dangerous influence over the land slowly faded. The mysterious woman acknowledged Vil's effort and withdrew. Tension eased as the group realized the threat had been stopped. Afterward, Vil directed the remaining monsters away from the village. The land began to recover while his companions prepared to continue their journey. Vil followed Night Sky across the recovering land, considering whether the seal on the sacred sword should remain or be lifted. At the village boundary, he struck the earth with his tool, forging a protective barrier that restored stability to the surroundings. Soon, a great wall rose around the settlement, enclosing the area in safety. The villagers saw it as a miracle protecting their home. Gratitude spread as the people thanked Vil for saving them. He accepted their thanks calmly, focusing on rebuilding the damaged village, while peace returned. Another hidden threat emerged nearby. A beastfolk warrior prepared to face it, ensuring the land remained protected. The beastfolk warrior charged again, cutting through the attacking plants, yet doubt filled her as the enemy kept growing stronger. Suddenly, she was pulled away from danger as another figure intervened, preventing the monster from striking her directly. Held safely, She realized someone had protected her at the last moment. The situation shifted as the immediate threat passed. Relief appeared on the rescued woman's face, grateful for the unexpected help that saved her from the deadly attack. Confusion remained as the warrior tried to understand why she had been saved. Despite the chaos, their bond began to grow stronger. Smiling gently, the rescued woman explained she was not different from them, revealing a shared connection that surprised the others. Memories of harsh treatment resurfaced, showing how beastfolk had long suffered under human control and misunderstanding. Even while enduring poison's lingering effects, she stayed composed, hiding her pain behind quiet determination. Confusion stirred within the warrior, unsettled by the kindness she witnessed toward someone she once distrusted. Struggling with unfamiliar feelings, she realized her view of others was changing, as bonds slowly formed through shared hardship and support. The beastfolk woman released a burst of energy that struck the other girl, transferring power directly into her body. Surprise spread as the wounded woman's injuries vanished instantly, leaving her unharmed. The others realized the ability could heal severe damage. Gratitude filled the air as the rescued girl expressed thanks, clearly relieved by the unexpected help. Embarrassment followed when the warrior denied acting out of kindness, insisting she only acted on impulse. Despite her words, their closeness grew stronger, and the rescued girl showed affection, leaving the warrior flustered by the unfamiliar warmth between them. A small girl appeared joyfully, floating in the air as magical energy surrounded her, revealing a new presence tied to Vil's journey. A calm moment shows two girls observing something ahead, while thinking about their next move. Along a forest path, the group moves forward between large trees. Suddenly, the small girl runs ahead with excitement. Without slowing down, the girl jumps forward toward a young man standing further down the road. Quickly reacting, the young man catches her as she reaches him. The girl happily clings to him while the others observe the reunion and recognize the person she rushed toward. Soon afterward, the group approaches a peaceful town surrounded by trees and high stone walls, continuing their travel as they enter the settlement. Upon entering the village, the group notices the area looks unusually quiet. A beast-eared woman steps forward and points toward a nearby building. Inside the place, several villagers lie weakly on the floor and benches. The sight worries the group as they look around the room filled with exhausted people. Child who struggles weakly in her arms. The beast-eared woman explains that many villagers became sick after eating contaminated food. Understanding the seriousness of the situation, she turns toward the young man and requests his help. After hearing the explanation, the group realizes his abilities may be the fastest way to help the suffering villagers and restore the town. Her presence signals that he is about to begin using his ability to address the village's problem. Floating lightly through the air, the tiny girl moves with excitement. Her sudden motion draws the attention of the beast-eared companion, leaving her visibly puzzled. A glow begins to gather above Vil's palm. Moments later, the light condenses into the shape of a brilliant sword, astonishing everyone nearby. Without hesitation, Vil places the newly formed weapon into the beast-eared girl's hands. Confusion spreads across her face as she struggles to understand why she was chosen. From behind, Vil calmly steadies her shoulders and guides her stance, encouraging her to stay relaxed while holding the sword. The beast-eared girl suddenly loses balance as energy reacts through the sword. Nearby, a woman forms a glowing pattern in her hand. Above the scene, the small floating girl appears larger and guides the moment. The beast-eared girl stands below while power gathers through the weapon she holds. With closed eyes, she concentrates while trying to follow the instructions. The floating girl encourages the process as the beast-eared girl attempts to control the energy. Energy surges strongly as the girl releases the gathered power. The others nearby watch the sudden burst as the attack moves forward. However, the force quickly drains her strength. The beast-eared girl collapses forward as the power fades, leaving her exhausted from the attempt. Inside a quiet room, Vil sits beside the bed, where the beast-eared girl rests after collapsing from exhaustion. Regret fills her expression as she sits on the floor, feeling responsible for the failed attempt. She lowers her head and apologizes to Vil for the outcome. Later, they step outside into the town square. Children suddenly run toward the beast-eared girl and surround her with excitement. Behind them, many villagers gather with smiles. Their illnesses have disappeared, and they thank the group for saving them. Hearing the praise, the beast-eared girl looks surprised, realizing the effort still helped the village despite her collapse. Vil gently places his hand on the beast-eared girl's head, reassuring her after the earlier incident. Doubt fills her mind as she questions why people call her a hero when she could not fully control the sacred sword. Suddenly, loud warnings echo from the town walls. Guards and villagers notice a massive creature approaching from the forest. A gigantic dragon-like monster rises beyond the walls, smashing through the defenses as it advances toward the settlement. The enormous creature releases a destructive attack that explodes across the area, sending a violent shockwave toward the town. After the violent attack, the group notices a glowing barrier surrounding the town. The beast-eared woman looks shocked, realizing a sacred defensive barrier has suddenly appeared to block the monster's strike. He calmly explains the source of the protection. The others stare, in disbelief, when he reveals that he was the one who created the barrier device. Attention turns to a large crystal placed nearby. The group studies the shining magic stone, surprised by its unusual size and power. The woman explains that such barrier devices normally require massive structures and far greater space. Vil then reveals that he redesigned the original Imperial barrier system and compressed it into a much smaller device, crystal between his fingers, and explains that it is a special mineral capable of storing magical energy. The others gather around him as he continues describing how the crystal becomes the core of the barrier system, using a magnifying lens. One of them studies the crystal closely. Tiny patterns and symbols can be seen engraved across the surface. Those markings form a magic circuit that controls how energy flows through the stone. The design allows magical power to move safely through the structure. Vil explains that carving the proper formula into the crystal allows the sacred barrier to function. The barrier device can be activated. The group listens as he describes how the magic stone works with the engraved pattern. He then admits that creating such items easily is only possible because of his rare crafting ability. After everything is settled, the villagers gather to thank them for protecting the town. The group prepares to leave while the people wave and express their gratitude. Vil stands confidently as the wagon begins to move, announcing that their next destination will be the royal capital far away. The grand capital city rises among mountains and forests, waiting for their arrival. Deep within ruined stone structures, thick roots and dark vines spread through the broken arches. At the center of the ruin, a mysterious woman stands while twisted roots wrap around her body. Farther inside the forest, the woman appears suspended within a massive web of vines. The strange growth covers the surroundings and spreads across the ancient structure. Soon after, a tall man steps forward through the flooded ruins. Markings on his arm reveal that he possesses unusual power as he observes the strange scene. With a confident smile, the man introduces himself respectfully before the woman, showing loyalty while announcing his name. Within the tangled ruins, the mysterious woman rests against the massive roots while holding a strange staff connected to the vines. Standing nearby, the long-haired man listens, while she explains that the sword was forced into uncontrolled use during an experiment. With quiet confidence, the woman predicts that someone will soon arrive who can fix the broken blade. A faint smile spreads across the man's face as he acknowledges the plan and speaks about another figure connected to their scheme. Raising his hand, he activates a glowing device, releasing powerful energy as he decides to push the unstable experiment even further. Inside the ruined structure, the woman unleashes power through the staff connected to the vines. Dark vines tighten around her body as the power spreads. While enduring the strain, she focuses on one person in her thoughts, sensing that Vil is approaching the place. A violent surge of energy erupts across the land as a radiant figure clashes with a monstrous force. Power spirals downward, tearing through earth and sky. From a distant height, a long-haired man observes the devastation with calm satisfaction. Below him, the capital trembles as shock waves ripple across fields and walls. His gaze fixes on the unfolding chaos. Inside a chamber, a noble woman feels sudden unease, tightening her chest. Seated nearby, Vil and his companions sense the disturbance approaching their location. The group reacts immediately, turning toward the source as tension fills the room. Awareness spreads among them that something dangerous draws closer. Outside, the sky fractures with thunderous force. Lightning crashes upon the outskirts, shaking the battlefield where destruction continues to descend. A towering wooden creature rises above the ruined outskirts, its body twisted like ancient roots. In its grasp, a staff crowned with a glaring eye gathers swirling energy. The air vibrates as waves surge outward. Vil steps forward, recognizing the overwhelming presence behind the attack. Beside him, his companions sense the same ominous force spreading through the sky. The monster swings its staff in a wide arc, pulling torrents of water and wind into a spiraling mass. With brutal force, the staff strikes downward, releasing a blinding explosion that crashes into the land and sends debris flying across the field. Floodwaters race toward a carriage struggling to escape. Mechanical limbs extend against the current, yet the raging surge threatens to swallow everything in its path. Vil kneels at the carriage roof, gripping his hammer as the flood surges around them. Confidence steadies his expression while his companions watch the rising waters behind him. He strikes the surface with precise force, activating a crafted mechanism beneath the panels. Energy spreads from the impact point, reinforcing the structure against the crushing waves. Beyond the city walls, the towering wooden giant stands within churning water, its staff glowing as it commands the storm. Vil studies the distant figure and understands the source of the disaster. Nearby, the queen trembles as the realization of the attacker's identity settles heavily upon her. Fear ripples through those who witness the devastation. Stepping forward, the beastkin warrior extends her hand confidently, trusting Vil's skill to restore balance and return control to their side. Reports confirm the citizens were evacuated before the giant's assault reached the capital. Brief relief settles over Vil and his companions. Beyond the walls, violent waves continue slamming against stone defenses. Defeating the colossal guardian while rescuing those still trapped becomes Vil's immediate priority as uncertainty surrounds the scale of destruction. In his open palm rests a luminous crystal filled with inexhaustible magic. Reluctance crosses his face, yet he decides to draw upon its sealed function to prevent further catastrophe. Concern rises from the beastkin warrior as she studies his determination. Protecting her and the remaining survivors stands at the center of his resolve. With calm conviction, Vil announces his plan to wield sacred light to save the injured, waiting only for confirmation before stepping into the battlefield. Vil tells the beastkin warrior that he wants her to handle the rescue efforts. Confidence marks his expression as he explains that with proper control, even overwhelming power can protect everyone. Resting on his gloved palm, the luminous crystal reflects steady light. He believes the life used to create it will not be wasted if it serves this purpose. Carefully fastening the chain around her neck, Vil entrusts the artifact to her. Determination fills her eyes as she accepts the responsibility placed upon her shoulders. Above the battlefield, numerous metallic cubes manifest in the sky at his command. Their formation spreads outward, covering the flooded district below. From each descending construct, spiraling currents surge downward, absorbing torrents of water and redirecting the raging flood away from the city. As the cubes continue absorbing the flood, the water level steadily drops around the city. Vil signals that once the drainage is complete, a clear path forward will finally open. Without hesitation, the beastkin warrior and her ally launch themselves from the platform. Wind rushes past as they speed toward the distant village, threatened by lingering currents. Focused determination sharpens her gaze, while the crystal at her chest glows faintly. Strength surges through her body as she pushes ahead to fulfill the entrusted mission. Confidence replaces doubt as she resolves to complete the rescue swiftly and return to stand beside Vil in battle. Amid scattered ruins and soaked earth, the endangered village comes into view, waiting for their arrival and immediate aid. Among shattered homes and scattered debris, injured villagers lie across the soaked ground. The beastkin warrior steps forward, drawing her blade as she prepares to begin immediate treatment. Survivors look up in shock as she announces that aid has arrived. Her companion spreads her arms, assuring everyone that healing will be carried out without delay. Closing her eyes, the beastkin focuses on the crystal resting against her chest. A quiet plea forms in her heart as she calls upon its stored power. Emotion trembles through her voice while she insists on fulfilling the duty entrusted to her. Tears fall from the young girl nearby, overwhelmed by pain and fear. Suddenly, the artifact responds, lifting slightly as light gathers around it. Energy begins to radiate outward, signaling the start of the long-awaited healing. As the healing begins, a graceful woman descends and reaches toward the glowing crystal. The beastkin resists, unwilling to surrender the power entrusted to her. Facing the frightened girl, the newcomer urges her to draw strength for the villagers' sake. Encouragement softens the child's tears as resolve slowly replaces fear. Rising into the air, the woman lifts a radiant blade high above. Light bursts outward from its edge, spreading across the ruined streets below. Shattered wood and scattered debris are swept aside by the expanding glow. Injured bodies rise gently as wounds begin closing under the sacred radiance. When the brilliance fades, villagers kneel in gratitude before their saviors, relief washing over the once devastated settlement. Silence settles as the beastkin lowers her gaze, burdened by the thought that she failed to complete the duty entrusted by Vil. Doubt lingers across her expression despite the villagers' recovery. The elegant woman approaches gently, suggesting evacuation while questioning the reason the crystal was entrusted in the first place. Confusion remains over intentions beyond simple rescue. Far away, Vil observes the draining waters and realizes time is limited. Ending the conflict swiftly becomes essential before further damage spreads. Assessing the sacred blades available, he considers their roles in attack, defense, and support. Facing the towering wooden giant, Vil activates his strengthening technique. Power surges through his body as he charges forward to restore everything to its rightful state. High above the flooded terrain, the wooden giant gathers a dense sphere of compressed water and hurls it toward Vil. With no foothold in the open sky, he appears cornered before the incoming blast. Instead of retreating, Vil braces and channels energy through the crest on his chest. A cylindrical construct forms ahead of him, meeting the raging projectile head. Additional pillars of compressed force materialize in rapid succession, redirecting the torrent and fracturing its momentum. The giant pauses as its attack is reduced to scattered currents. A final surge from the construct slams into the creature's upper body, forcing its massive frame backward. Shock ripples across its wooden form. Seizing the opening, Vil lands lightly upon the ground below, eyes fixed on the staggered enemy as the next exchange approaches. The wooden giant crashes onto the churning water, then immediately rises and swings its massive staff in a wide arc. A roaring wave surges forward, aimed directly at Vil propels himself upward, skimming along the surface before leaping toward the creature's towering body. His trajectory carries him close to its dark torso. A tense smile forms on his face as he recognizes the enemy's quick recovery. Sweat traces his cheek, yet his focus never falters. Without warning, the giant's limb lashes out and seizes him midair. Crushing force tightens around his body as he struggles against the grip. At that instant, a dragon-like ally bursts through the waves and slams into the giant's side, disrupting its hold and creating a sudden opening. The dragon's sudden charge tears Vil free from the giant's grasp. He steadies himself midair, regaining balance as the massive wave collapses beneath them. Landing upon the dragon's back, Vil fixes his gaze on the towering enemy. Renewed resolve drives him forward as both prepare to launch their next assault. Vil grips his forged weapon and channels power into it as a winged dragon rises before him, flames gathering inside its open jaws. Energy surges outward, forming a blazing magic circle that amplifies the dragon's fire, while Vil launches himself forward through the air. A massive beam of compressed light pierces through the dragon's head, tearing apart scales and silencing its roar instantly. The wounded creature collapses from the sky, its body twisting before crashing heavily into the ground below. Vil watches calmly as dust and debris scatter across the battlefield. After the impact, rain begins falling from the clearing sky, and Vil looks upward, breathing steadily as the fight finally ends. A blinding explosion spreads across the sky as concentrated light collides head-on with the dragon's attack, forcing Vil to realize a direct hit would be fatal. Through heavy rain, a towering tree-like giant rises behind the dragon, its massive form moving with unnatural force while Vil senses something is wrong. The winged dragon charges forward, clashing against the dark giant as their bodies collide violently above the soaked battlefield. Shards of hardened energy rain downward, striking the dragon repeatedly and driving it back through the storm-filled air. Watching carefully, Vil understands the rain is strengthening the giant, and he prepares himself before the overwhelming power shifts completely out of control. Vil realizes the battle is dragging on as the giant's core and strange growths pulse under the rain, feeding on the storm's magic. Elsewhere, a woman marked by creeping veins struggles against a spreading curse, her body slowly being consumed by dark power. Above the battlefield, the dragon clashes again with the giant's force, beams colliding as the rain intensifies around them. Assessing the situation calmly, Vil understands his stamina is fading and decides the fight must end quickly. Without hesitation, he dives through the storm toward the enemy, entrusting his ally to keep distance while he executes his final plan. Floodwaters crash through the village as survivors climb broken structures and fallen trees, struggling to escape the raging current. Nearby, Poro descends in radiant light after completing her task, while villagers gather below and look up in relief. Despite the storm, a soaked warrior with animal-like features reaches forward, refusing to yield while rain runs down her determined face. Around the ruins, fighters check the injured and pull them from debris, ensuring no one is left behind in the chaos. Suddenly, a child is spotted drowning in the torrent, small hands reaching upward as the relentless water threatens to pull them under. Poro dives into the raging flood without hesitation, stretching her arms toward the struggling child as villagers watch in alarm. Beneath the surface, her body moves on instinct through swirling currents, bubbles rising as she searches desperately in the murky water. On higher ground, a composed woman directs others to evacuate, ensuring the remaining villagers move away from the collapsing riverbank. Moments later, Poro emerges from the torrent, dragging the unconscious child onto the muddy shore, while exhausted onlookers rush closer. As rain continues pouring down, another child cries in panic, fearing someone else has sunk beneath the unforgiving water. Villagers shout for everyone to move toward higher ground, while a small girl remains near the edge, crying about her missing cat. Floodwaters swirl violently through shattered homes, debris spinning in widening circles as the river consumes everything in its path. Soaked and trembling, the girl begs for help, insisting someone save her beloved pet from the raging current. Despite nearing exhaustion, Poro plunges back into the torrent, searching desperately beneath the surface while her strength steadily fades. Through tears and rain, the child continues crying for both her parents and the missing cat, her voice echoing over the relentless storm. Rain runs down Poro's face as she recalls a lonely past where no one ever reached out to save her. Driven by that memory, she dives toward the drowning child, refusing to let another life endure the same despair she once felt. Below them, a violent whirlpool forms, spinning faster and pulling everything toward its dark center. From the riverbank, villagers watch in shock as the current swallows both figures, fear spreading among the onlookers. Moments later, Poro resurfaces near the shore, coughing heavily while the child crawls toward her, calling out in tearful relief. Poro kneels in the rain and gently presses the small cat against her chest, shielding its fragile body from the cold ground. Exhausted and shaking, she admits her strength is nearly gone while the crying girl reaches forward in desperate gratitude. A faint light begins glowing around Poro's soaked form as a calm woman nearby raises her hand to support her. At the same time, a sacred sword is lifted high, its blade shining as power gathers in response to the dire situation. Radiant energy descends from above, enveloping Poro and the cat in warm brilliance, signaling that salvation has finally arrived. Vil surveys the flooded forest from above, calculating the battlefield while guiding the dragon toward a safer landing point. The dragon responds immediately, descending through heavy rain with sharp focus as it prepares for another assault. Below them, the dark giant smashes through wooden structures, its massive limbs tearing apart anything within reach. Despite nearing exhaustion, the winged dragon rises again and intercepts the giant's crushing hand before it can strike the ground. With unwavering resolve, Vil signals to continue the fight, entrusting the final clash to his ally as they drive the towering enemy back into the forest. A radiant crystal forms high above the battlefield, gathering immense energy before releasing multiple beams toward the towering giant below. The dark creature twists its massive body as spiraling tendrils lash outward, deflecting some of the descending strikes. From the ground, Vil raises his weapon and directs the falling spears of light, carefully adjusting their paths through the pouring rain. One concentrated beam pierces through the giant's hardened core, shattering fragments of dark matter across the flooded terrain. Even while wounded, the enormous enemy remains standing, its limbs encircled by swirling energy as it prepares a final desperate counterattack. Vil reveals that the glowing structure is not merely a transfer crystal, but a device he prepared earlier to counter the giant. As the monster's enormous foot descends, Vil raises his forged hammer, timing his strike with precise calculation. The giant unleashes a completed technique, generating a vast swamp that spreads outward and drags the flooded land into deeper ruin. Beside him, the dragon acknowledges Vil's skill while watching the collapsing terrain with wary eyes. Even as the capital lies threatened in the distance, Vil remains calm, determined to end the destruction before it reaches the city. Standing alone in the pouring rain, Vil declares that he despises those who reduce everything to ruin without thought. Water drips from his hair as he grips his weapon firmly, vowing that the one responsible will never be forgiven. Nearby, the dragon rises from the flooded ground while the dark giant's presence continues sinking deeper into the spreading swamp. With steady confidence, Vil reveals a final measure, raising a specialized firearm forged for reversing cause and effect. As the dragon watches in surprise, Vil fires into the waterlogged battlefield, triggering a decisive shift that begins overturning the giant's overwhelming power. In the pouring rain, the massive swamp begins collapsing as the dark giant's hardened form sinks into the churning water, its power destabilized by Vil's counterattack. Moments later, a luminous female figure rises from the flood, her body suspended unnaturally as compressed energy binds and lifts her from the surface. Across the battlefield, a dense sphere of black water gathers and condenses in the sky, while Vil watches calmly. A massive pillar of water crashed down from the sky as rain poured relentlessly. Beneath it, a black-haired woman was dragged upward by a violent current. Nearby, an enormous ancient tree trembled while energy gathered around its trunk. Within its branches, the woman's body became trapped as roots and vines tightened, sealing her inside. High above, a monstrous insect with long limbs and wide wings descended through the storm. Its presence spread pressure across the battlefield. Electric energy surged around the creature as the water pillar rose to confront it. Power clashed violently in midair, standing firmly below. Vil watched the scene with steady resolve, prepared to end the threat alone. A vast sphere of water formed above the battlefield, enclosing the black-haired woman inside its crushing mass. Rain continued to fall as the current tightened around her suspended body. From the forest edge, a winged dragon launched forward, cutting through spiraling winds that twisted violently across the sky. The glowing sphere shifted direction and accelerated, dragging torrents behind it while the storm intensified. Midair, the dragon struck against the rushing force. Wings spread wide as water, and impact collided in a violent burst. Below, Vil steadied himself and raised his hammer, activating its power to confront the escalating threat. Vil thrust his hammer forward, releasing multiple compressed blasts that tore through the spiraling storm. The projectiles streaked across the sky and forced the dragon to shield itself midair. Wind currents tightened around the battlefield as the dragon struggled to track the incoming strikes. Its massive wings beat harder, yet the attacks curved unpredictably. Leaping onto a rising current, Vil redirected another surge toward his opponent. The dragon's body jerked as impacts erupted across its scales. Fragments of energy scattered, while the creature lost altitude, its movements slowing under continuous pressure. Above them, the monstrous insect advanced again, preparing to strike as the clash intensified. Rain streamed down as Vil lifted his hammer and declared his work complete. Confidence replaced tension, while energy gathered quietly around the weapon's head. Across the sky, the dragon and the monstrous insect hesitated as a small object dropped between them. The storm continued swirling while both creatures focused on the descending threat. The insect lunged forward with lethal intent, driving its power toward Vil. Instead of retreating, a final instant, the dragon intercepted the strike, colliding with the insect as the small object detonated between them. When the light faded, a massive constructed hammer blocked the assault, revealing the true result of Vil's creation. A colossal floating castle formed from compressed air, sealing the battlefield beneath its shadow. Lightning split the sky while the dragon circled outside the massive structure. At its center, the insect revealed a sacred spear and spun it rapidly, generating violent currents meant to tear through any defense. Standing atop flowing air, Vil maneuvered calmly, redirecting energy while analyzing the weapon's structure and searching for its weakness. Flames erupted along the castle's inner walls as concentrated heat struck the core, igniting the enchanted mass surrounding the spear. Through the rain, Vil declared the strategy complete, focusing all force on burning the vulnerable core to end the battle decisively. Blazing torrents consumed the enchanted mass as the final strike burned through the vulnerable core. The storm began to collapse while the overwhelming pressure faded from the sky. Clouds parted gradually, revealing calm air as the sacred spear returned to its original form. Rain ceased completely, and the battlefield grew silent beneath clearing heavens. Light descended softly around the black-haired woman as her body restored itself, and she stepped forward in renewed form. Before Vil, she approached with composed grace, her presence steady and radiant after the fierce struggle. Holding the recovered spear, she expressed gratitude while Vil stood relaxed, confirming the crisis had finally ended. Vil reassured the restored goddess that the kingdom's citizens had already been evacuated safely. The tension eased as both acknowledged the battle's outcome. Across the plains, distant villages and forests appeared peaceful beneath clearing skies. However, a new warning arose as reports spread of monsters multiplying after the flood. Within the forest's edge, twisted roots writhed and creatures emerged from soaked ground. Two warriors observed the disturbance, preparing to respond immediately. One charged forward decisively, cutting through the attacking vines while protecting her companion from the sudden assault. Standing firm, the fox-eared fighter ordered the others to retreat, declaring she would hold the advancing monsters alone. Surrounded by writhing vines and emerging monsters, the fox-eared warrior launched herself into the fray. Her blades carved wide arcs, shattering roots and scattering creatures across the soaked ground. Breathing heavily, she landed hard yet forced herself upright. Mud clung to her boots as exhaustion threatened to slow her movements. Behind her, villagers gathered and shouted encouragement, their voices pushing her to continue. Determination hardened her gaze as she resolved to protect them. A sudden strike knocked her weapon aside, forcing her back as another creature lunged from the shadows. Before the blow could land, a swift woman descended and caught her mid-fall, stepping in to join the battle. Facing a mass of writhing roots and clustered monsters, the fox-eared warrior tightened her grip and stepped forward. With a powerful swing, she cut through the swirling creatures, scattering fragments across the clearing. The impact shattered their formation and forced the remaining monsters back. The blackened mass compressed into a spinning vortex before collapsing inward. Debris and shadows dissolved as the threat finally lost its shape. Silence settled over the forest while leaves drifted down gently. She lowered her weapon, breathing steadily after the decisive strike. Soon after, companions approached and embraced her gratefully, acknowledging her strength and the protection she had provided. With the monsters defeated, the dragon soared overhead while Veal and the goddess waved toward their companions. Relief spread across the field as survivors began running toward one another. Friends reunited in tight embraces, grateful to see each other unharmed. The sacred spear rested calmly at the goddess's side. Vil held the fox-eared warrior as she finally released her tension, exhaustion giving way to quiet tears. Far above, a small winged device hovered unnoticed, its single eye scanning the peaceful landscape below. Elsewhere, a hidden observer smiled while watching through the floating eye, pleased that the outcome had unfolded exactly as planned. In a shadowed cavern, a long-haired figure observed the aftermath through a floating eye, dark markings spreading across one side of the face as a satisfied expression formed. Elsewhere, a woman in black stepped forward confidently, revealing herself as the orchestrator behind the surveillance and quietly anticipating further chaos. A woman leans close to the long-haired blacksmith, tracing his lips while whispering about the centuries he lived as a mere number. She reminds him that she once called him by name. Calm confidence spreads across his face as he declares her his finest creation, valuing her beyond titles or ranks. Satisfaction fills his eyes. Suddenly, her fist slams into his face. Shock flashes across his expression as she launches upward and crashes down onto enemies below. Fury overtakes her. She stomps through the battlefield, crushing foes beneath her heels while tears stream down her face. Later he stands behind her, amused and unshaken. She covers her face, trembling, as he praises his masterpiece once more. The blacksmith pulls the woman close and kisses her, proudly presenting her as his finest creation. She blushes yet clings to him, torn between affection and frustration. Smiling calmly, he reflects that such praise belongs to the past. In the present, another masterpiece surpasses all others, and he accepts that truth without hesitation. High above the battlefield, the woman descends with lethal force. Below her, a young warrior braces himself as her strike tears through the air. After landing, she turns away from the blacksmith. He stands with arms crossed, watching her closely while she struggles to steady her emotions. Facing forward, she declares her intent to destroy everything he created. Surprise flickers across his face as she walks away without looking back. The woman declares that she alone represents the creator's greatest masterpiece. Determination sharpens her gaze as she claims that title without doubt. Watching from a distance, the blacksmith smiles with excitement. The thought of a creation moving beyond its maker stirs his interest and quickens his pulse. Elsewhere, a wolf-eared swordswoman trains in the city streets. Though her blade cuts cleanly, she admits her strength still falls short of the hero she admires. Morning practice continues until a noblewoman approaches. The swordswoman senses something unusual in her words and studies her carefully. As their conversation deepens, power gathers in the air. The swordswoman prepares to demonstrate true courage, ready to reveal the strength she has been forging. The wolf-eared swordswoman accepts the noblewoman's request for a spar. Holding her blade firmly, she bows with resolve and prepares herself. Steel clashes as their weapons collide. The noblewoman parries smoothly, forcing the swordswoman backward with controlled strength. Multiple afterimages surround the battlefield, confusing the young fighter. Doubt crosses her face as she realizes her attacks lack effect. Rising into the air, the noblewoman analyzes her opponent's senses. She advises calm observation while maintaining absolute composure. Energy gathers around the noblewoman's staff, and a small spirit manifests beside her. Across from her, the swordswoman steadies her breathing, focusing everything on the next strike. The noblewoman lunges forward, pointing out flaws in the swordswoman's stance. She notes that her feet barely leave the ground, and her spear lacks full commitment. Taking advantage of that weakness, the swordswoman feints high and cuts low. Her blade slices toward the noblewoman's guard with sudden precision. Encouragement follows as the noblewoman raises her weapon and increases her intensity. The spirit beside her glows, brighter, signaling rising power. Speed fills the arena as afterimages clash from every direction. Steel rings repeatedly while both fighters press each other without retreat. With a final leap, the swordswoman brings her blade down in a decisive strike. The impact shakes the ground as the duel reaches its peak. The wolf-eared swordswoman charges forward with a fierce cry, blade sweeping in a wide arc. Behind her, the noblewoman extends a hand, guiding the timing of the attack. Under the full moon, both women race along a slanted rooftop. Their weapons carve bright trails through the night as they pursue the decisive moment. The noblewoman lands lightly and acknowledges the effort. The swordswoman steadies herself, breathing hard yet standing firm. Magic gathers briefly in the noblewoman's hand before fading. She admits the duel could have ended differently had she relied on greater power. After watching the battle, she concludes that the swordswoman has overcome hesitation. Confidence now replaces doubt as their training reaches a turning point. The noblewoman explains that a true sacred sword user fights as one with the blade. She observes the wolf-eared swordswoman closely, acknowledging her rare talent while urging her to refine it further. With respect, the young swordswoman bows deeply. Gratitude replaces tension as she accepts the guidance without hesitation. From a distant tower, a black-haired young man named Vil watches through binoculars. Beside him stands a silent dragon as he notes her steady growth toward becoming a true hero, lowering the lenses. Vil smiles calmly. He recognizes that his creation now moves according to her own will rather than merely following his intentions. Suddenly, a fierce figure descends from above with violent force, shattering the peace and signaling a new battle about to begin. On the tower balcony, Vil stands beside a dragon when a sudden blast strikes him. The impact bursts against an unseen barrier, shaking the stone railing. The dragon comments on the speed of the attack. Vil steadies himself and looks ahead, sensing something unusual approaching. Holding his binoculars, Vil realizes he may have underestimated the situation. Confusion crosses his face as he tries to identify the source. Elsewhere, a woman slips after misjudging her movement. Amusement flickers across her expression, despite the mistake. Hanging upside down from a tree branch, she vows to repay this humiliation many times over. Her eyes burn with intent as she remembers Vil's name. Days later, the castle gates stand open as Vil and his companions prepare to depart. Citizens wave in gratitude for restoring the kingdom's stability. The wolf-eared swordswoman declares her decision to become a true hero. She intends to travel, meet others, and learn what it truly means to carry that title. Vil gently pats her head and approves of her goal. Instead of chasing revenge, he encourages her to seek healthier ambitions and grow stronger. The noblewoman promises to aid the nation's rebuilding. Though saddened by the farewell, she offers firm support for the journey ahead. Hands clasp in a final pledge. With renewed determination, they vow to meet again after proving their strength. In the southern kingdom, a fierce archer releases a charged arrow as her blade-wielding ally advances toward battle. Vil and his companions arrived at the harbor city of Waz. The beastwoman happily admired the wide sea and lively coast, while Vil observed the unfamiliar place around them. A strange smell spread through the harbor area. Meanwhile, the others watched over the child and stayed close behind the group. Beyond the port, tropical islands and ancient ruins stood across the ocean. Vil learned the area held many famous sites and mysterious structures. Thoughts of meeting powerful warriors and discovering new weapon ideas excited Vil during the journey. While staring at the large ships, Vil became inspired to someday build his own vessel for traveling the sea. Vil continued thinking about ships while walking through the harbor. Although interested in building one himself, he realized he lacked proper designs and experience. Suddenly, loud cries drew the group's attention. Vil quickly focused on finding a vessel capable of long-distance travel. Nearby, a massive ship stood heavily damaged from a volcanic disaster. Workers struggled to repair the broken structure along the harbor. An older man noticed the crest carried by Vil and immediately suspected he possessed unusual abilities. After approaching the group, the man urgently begged Vil to restore the ruined ship so critical supplies could reach the island in time. The old merchant promised Vil free passage on the ship once the repairs were complete. Excitement quickly spread through the group after hearing the offer. Soon, the merchant guided them to a massive shipyard near the harbor. Large cranes, wooden docks, and unfinished vessels filled the busy workplace. After introducing himself, the merchant allowed Vil to use as many materials as needed for the repairs. Relief appeared across the group as hope returned. The merchant then handed Vil the damaged ship's blueprint for closer inspection. Carefully studying the design, Vil became impressed by the ship's structure and prepared himself for the next task. After examining the blueprint, Vil calmly asked permission to completely dismantle the damaged ship before starting the repairs. The group became confused by his request, but Vil explained that the vessel's design contained two serious flaws that threatened its safety. Holding his hammer with confidence, Vil revealed he already had a method to solve the problem and improve the ship entirely. Far away across the sea, a determined woman continued moving toward her destination while thinking deeply about Vil. Rumors soon spread that travelers heading through this route often relied on ships crossing the dangerous waters ahead. Without hesitation, the woman activated a powerful transformation and leaped into battle with overwhelming force. Her body moved through the stormy sky as fierce energy surrounded her during the attack. Moments later, a massive blue dragon appeared above the sea. The ancient beast unleashed destructive water blasts capable of sinking ships instantly. Suddenly, an enormous armored vessel crashed forward and struck the dragon directly before the attack could spread further. The gigantic ship continued advancing across the ocean, revealing a powerful new structure unlike any ordinary vessel seen before. The blue dragon became confused after seeing the enormous iron ship reveal hidden cannons beneath its hull. Seconds later, explosive attacks fired across the sea. Powerful blasts struck the surrounding waters and forced the dragon backward. From the deck, the merchant proudly explained that the military cannons automatically activated whenever enemies approached the vessel. Vil then revealed the ship's special design. Air chambers and magical balance control allowed the massive iron structure to float safely above the ocean. Finally, Vil explained that wooden ships could not survive volcanic disasters. By changing both the material and power system, the vessel became far stronger and safer for future voyages. Vil activated the ship's magical engine, causing massive wheels along both sides to spin across the water. The vessel's speed increased far beyond ordinary ships. Soon, the iron ship moved smoothly through rough seas without relying on weather conditions. The merchant stared in disbelief at the powerful creation before him. Rather than demanding payment, Vil calmly returned ownership of the ship to the merchant, because the original vessel had belonged to him from the beginning. Shock spread across the merchant's face after learning Vil also used his own materials, while already receiving free travel from the crew. As the voyage continued, land finally appeared in the distance while the group prepared for the next stage of their journey. As the ship approached the volcanic island, thick smoke and eruptions covered the sky. The crew realized the rescue mission had become far more dangerous than expected. Without warning, burning volcanic rocks crashed toward the vessel. Panic spread across the deck as everyone rushed to avoid the impact. Before the massive boulder could strike, defensive attacks launched upward from the ship and destroyed the falling debris mid-air. Fragments scattered across the sea while the iron vessel continued moving forward through the violent eruption without slowing down. Relief quickly spread among the crew after discovering the ship remained undamaged. Vil calmly watched the situation while the others admired the vessel's strength. Vil observed the woman carefully and realized her weapon was the legendary star arrow, a sacred bow used by only a few people in history. From the ship's deck, the group watched the warrior prepare another attack, while maintaining perfect focus on the battlefield ahead. The woman known as the Fire Hero carried a sacred weapon unlike ordinary arms. Its form could change freely depending on the battle. During the fight, the sacred bow suddenly cracked apart and lost its original shape in front of everyone. Confusion spread across the group after seeing the damaged weapon. Meanwhile, the Fire Hero calmly stared at the broken bow while standing alone near the shore. The Fire Hero approached the shore after the battle and quietly looked toward Vil's group with a calm expression. After delivering the supplies safely, the iron ship prepared to return to the harbor, while the crew waved goodbye from the coast. Vil and his companions finally arrived in the southern nation surrounded by volcanic mountains and burning forests. The group soon witnessed how dangerous the region truly was. Smoke, lava, and destroyed machines covered the land instead of the peaceful tourist destination they expected. Unable to stay still, Vil rushed ahead toward the disaster area. Meanwhile, the beastwoman quickly followed behind after grabbing the Fire Hero's hand. Vil noticed the Fire Hero looked exhausted after constantly fighting inside the volcanic region. Even so, she continued standing guard near the dangerous area. While smoke covered the mountains, Vil questioned why she kept entering the unstable disaster zone alone, despite the growing risks around her. Instead of leaving her behind, Vil calmly offered to cooperate and help investigate the island together. The Fire Hero hesitated after hearing his proposal. Vil then explained that the island's situation had already become too severe to ignore. Meanwhile, the beastwoman realized the Fire Hero no longer carried the sacred bow. Vil suspected a hidden reason existed behind her separation from the weapon. Vil watched the Fire Hero walk away and decided to repair the sacred weapon as part of his responsibility as a craftsman. His words unexpectedly shocked the Fire Hero, leaving her completely speechless for a moment. Meanwhile, the others noticed her unusual reaction, while Vil calmly asked what had happened to the sacred sword. The Fire Hero finally revealed that the legendary weapon Fire Arrow had been stolen from her.